before we get to the man, you have to understand the stage. Forget the image of a peaceful, ancient India sitting in silence under a banyan tree. That's a myth. The world Siddhartha Gautama was born into was chaotic. It was violent. It was exploding. Historians call this the second urbanization. Sounds dry, doesn't it? But here's what it actually meant. The quiet, pastoral life was dying. Massive cities were rising up out of the mud in the Gangetic Plains, places like modern-day Nepal, UP, and Bihar. This wasn't just happening here. It was a global fever, the axial age. While the Buddha was walking these dusty roads, Socrates was questioning Athens. Confucius was rewriting China. Zoroaster was preaching in Persia. The whole human race was waking up at the exact same time. But in India, it was Game of Thrones. There were 16 major states, the Mahajanapadas, and they were constantly at each other's throats. You had these massive, centralized monarchies like Magadha and Kosala, ruled by ruthless kings like Bimbisara and Ajatashatru. These weren't just tribal chiefs. They had standing armies. They had ambition. They wanted to own everything. And then you had the little guys, the republics, the Ghana Sanghas. These were older tribal confederacies. They were somewhat democratic, governed by assemblies of elders. Why does this matter? Because the Buddha came from one of these, the Shakyas. He wasn't born into the rising empire. He was born into the dying breed, the independent republic threatened by the big, hungry monarchies next door. He saw the inevitable. He saw that the old world of tribal loyalty was being crushed by the iron fist of imperial power. Iron and gold. And I mean iron literally. This was the Iron Age. Iron axes were clearing the dense jungles of the Ganges faster than ever before. More land meant more food. More food meant a massive population boom. Suddenly, you have surplus. And when you have surplus, you have trade. We see the rise of the Sethis, the merchant class, wealthy, powerful. We see money, not cows, not grain, actual punch-marked silver coins. This completely broke the old social order. The rigid caste system, the Varnas, was struggling to keep up. You had the Brahmins, priests, and Kshatriyas, warriors, fighting for the top spot. But now you have these rich householders, the Gahapatis, who have economic power but no ritual status. The system was cracking. Even the role of women was in flux. They were running households, accessing education, but the walls were starting to close in. The spiritual marketplace. So you have constant war. You have a confusing new economy. You have cities teeming with strangers. People were stressed. They were suffering. And the old religion? It wasn't helping. The dominant Vedic rituals had become incredibly complex and expensive. You needed to slaughter cattle for the gods. But wait, cattle are the backbone of this new agricultural economy. Killing them made no economic sense anymore. The rituals felt hollow. They were for the rich. The common man was left staring at the sky, asking, "Is this it?" And into this void stepped the Shramanas, the strivers. These were the rebels, the dropouts, young men and women walking out of society, shaving their heads, and disappearing into the forests to find the truth for themselves. It was a spiritual marketplace. It was crowded. You had Mahavira, the great Jain teacher, preaching extreme nonviolence. You had Makali Gosala saying everything is fate, you can't change a thing. You had the materialists, the Charvakas, laughing at everyone and saying, there is no afterlife, just enjoy today. It was a chaotic mess of ideas. Atheists, determinists, ascetics, and nihilists. Everyone screaming that they had the answer to suffering. This was the world waiting for the Buddha. Not a peaceful barden, but a society in crisis, desperate for a way out. Let's go back, way back, About 2,500 years ago, we're standing on the border of what is now Nepal and India. This isn't a place of quiet meditation yet. It's the home of the Shakyas, and these people, they were warriors, fierce, proud. They called themselves Kshatriyas. At the top of the food chain sits King Suddhodana. He's the ruler of Kapilavastu, and he's a man with a plan. He's ambitious. He wants a legacy. He wants a son who will take what he's built and make it an empire. His wife, Queen Maya, is different. She's pure, virtuous, beloved by the people, but they have no heir. Then comes the dream. It's the midsummer festival. The queen falls asleep and dreams she's carried away to the Himalayas. A white elephant, 6 tusks, holding a lotus flower, circles her 3 times and enters her side. No pain, just grace. The court wise men hear this and nod. They know what it means. This isn't just a baby. A great being is coming. Tradition says a woman should give birth in her father's house. So a very pregnant Queen Maya hits the road, heading for Devadaha. But she doesn't make it. Halfway there, in a grove of sal trees called Lumbini, she stops. She steps out of her carriage, reaches up to hold a tree branch, and it happens. Right there. No hospital, no palace walls, just nature. The legends get wild here. They say the birth was painless. They say he didn't come out the usual way, but from her side. And the baby? He doesn't cry. He stands up. He walks 7 steps. Lotus flowers bloom where his feet touch the dirt. And he speaks. Imagine that. An infant voice declaring, "I am the chief of the world. This is my last birth." It's a powerful story, but reality crashes in hard. 7 days later, Queen Maya dies. Just like that. The boy who is supposed to conquer the world loses the very first person who loved him. His aunt, Mahapajapati Gautami, steps in. She raises him as her own. She loves him, but that shadow, that early touch of death, it's there, lurking in the background, even if no one talks about it. Then comes the prophecy. A hermit sage named Asita comes down from the mountains. He takes one look at the baby and starts weeping. The king panics. Is he cursed? Is he going to die? No, Asita says, I'm crying for myself. He explains that this child is going to be the greatest teacher the world has ever seen, the one who unlocks the cage of human suffering. And Asita is crying because he's too old. He's going to die before he gets to hear what this boy has to say. They name him Siddhartha. It means he who achieves his aim, wish fulfilled, success incarnate. But the king isn't satisfied. He calls in the experts, 8 Brahmin scholars. He wants a second opinion. He wants a guarantee. 7 of them look at the boy's marks and say, well, it's a coin toss, Your Highness. 2 paths lie ahead. He will either be a Chakravartin, a wheel-turning monarch who conquers the 4 corners of the earth, or he will be a Buddha, a homeless wanderer who conquers the mind. The king likes the first option. He hates the second. But the youngest Brahmin, a guy named Kondanya, isn't confused. He raises 1 finger, not 2, 1. He says, there is no other path. This child will leave the world to awaken to the truth. Suddhodana hears this, and he makes a decision that will define the next 29 years of his son's life. He decides to fight destiny. He builds a cage, but not of iron bars. He builds a cage of gold, of pleasure, of perfection. If the boy sees suffering, he might want to fix it. So the king says, remove it. He orders every sick person, every old person, every corpse, and every monk to be cleared from the prince's sight. He builds 3 palaces, 1 for winter, 1 for summer, 1 for the rainy season. The prince is never too hot, never too cold. He is surrounded by beauty, musicians, dancing girls, the finest food. It's a Truman Show existence, a completely fabricated reality designed to keep him addicted to pleasure. The king wants a warrior, though. He doesn't want a soft poet. So Siddhartha is trained. He learns the Vedas, he learns governance, and make no mistake, he learns to kill. There's a story about his marriage contest. He wants to marry his cousin, the beautiful Princess Yashodhara. But the other Shakya elders are skeptical. He's a palace boy, they say. He's too pretty. He can't lead an army. So Siddhartha picks up a bow. He shuts them up. He proves he has the strength to be the world conqueror his father wants. He gets the girl. He marries Yashodhara. It's a perfect match. Two royals, young, beautiful, living in a paradise where flowers never wilt because the gardeners pick them before they turn brown. But time is the one enemy the king can't fight. Siddhartha is growing up. He's smart. And when you're that smart, eventually you start to notice the cracks in the walls. You start to feel the emptiness of constant pleasure. Then the final shackle snaps into place. Yashodhara gets pregnant. She gives birth to a son. When the news is brought to Siddhartha, he doesn't jump for joy. He doesn't pass out cigars. He looks at his newborn son, this innocent life that he helped create, and he says one word, Rahula. It means fetter, a chain, a bond. Most fathers see a legacy. Siddhartha saw a trap. He realized that his love for this child was the strongest chain yet. It was the thing that would finally lock him into this domestic, illusionary life forever. He named his son Chain because he could feel the prison door slamming shut. And that terrified him more than any army ever could. He had the palaces, he had the power, he had the wife, the child, the skills, the future. He had everything a human being is supposed to want. But he was about to realize that everything is worth absolutely nothing if you're living in a burning house and don't even know it. The stage was set, the cage was locked, but the prince was waking up. You have to understand the level of control here. It wasn't just that Siddhartha was rich. He was living in a quarantine zone, a gilded cage designed by a father who was terrified of a prophecy. King Siddhartha wasn't just spoiling his son, he was curating reality. Every withered leaf swept away before the prince woke up. Every sick servant removed from the grounds. It was the Truman Show, ancient style. But you can't hide the world forever. The human spirit itches for the truth. Siddhartha demands to see the city, the real city outside those high walls. So the king panics. He tries to sanitize an entire city. He orders the streets scrubbed, the decorations hung. He commands, literally commands, that the old, the sick, and the suffering stay indoors. He wants a parade of perfection. But life has a way of breaking through the cracks. Siddhartha rolls out in his chariot with Channa, his driver, and the king's plan falls apart immediately. They spot a man, but not like the man in the palace. This guy is bent double, leaning on a staff, shaking. His skin is wrinkled, his teeth are gone. Siddhartha freezes. He's never seen this. He asks Channa, "What is that? Has he always been like that?" And Channa, blunt and honest, drops the first bomb. "No, my lord, that's old age. It happens to everyone. It destroys memory, beauty, and strength." "Even me?" the prince asks. "Even you, even the king." Siddhartha is rattled, but they keep going. Then the second crack in the facade. They see a man writhing in the dirt, covered in sores, screaming in pain. Siddhartha is horrified. What has this man done? He hasn't done anything, Channa says. That is sickness. The body is fragile. It breaks. It gets infected. Health isn't a promise. It's just a temporary pause between illnesses. The prince's security is shattering. The walls of the palace can keep out enemies, but they can't keep out biology. Then comes the third sight, the one that ends the debate. A procession. People crying, tearing their hair out. They are carrying a stiff, motionless body to the cremation grounds. Death. Is this the end for everyone? Siddhartha asks, probably terrified now. Everyone, Channa says. Rich, poor, young, old, we all turn to ash. This hits him with a specific, crushing emotion. In the texts, they call it samvega. It's not just sadness, it's terror. It's the shock of realizing that everything you love is going to vanish. It's the collapse of meaning. Why build a legacy? Why accumulate wealth? Why seek pleasure if it all ends on a burning pyre? It all felt suddenly, violently futile. But then, the fourth sight. Amidst this horror show of aging, sickness, and death, they see a wanderer, an ascetic. Fear, he isn't crying, he's radiant. Who is that? Siddhartha asks. That is a man who has left the home life, Channa explains. He is looking for the deathless. He is looking for a way out of this trap. That was the spark, the contrast between the hysterical grief of the funeral and the cool serenity of the monk. It showed Siddhartha that there was an exit door. When he got back to the palace, the illusion was dead. The dancing girls, the exotic food, the music, it didn't look like luxury anymore. It looked like a graveyard. He looked at the sleeping bodies of the dancers and saw corpses. The palace wasn't a home. It was a burning house, and he had to get out before the roof collapsed. He knew then he couldn't unsee the truth. The great renunciation wasn't a choice anymore. It was an escape. You'd think this would be the happiest day of his life. The news comes crashing in. A son, an heir. The kingdom of Kapilavastu erupts. The king, Shuddhodana, is ecstatic because the lineage is secure. The dynasty lives on. But Siddhartha? He doesn't celebrate. He hears the news and a shadow crosses his face. He looks up and whispers a single word. Rahula. It's not a cute nickname. It's not a term of endearment. In his language, Rahula means fetter, a chain, a bond. Think about that. He looks at his newborn son and sees a shackle. Not because he hates the child. No, it's because he loves him. He knows that this love is the final trap. If he doesn't leave now, right now, he never will. This baby is the emotional anchor that will drag him down into the life of a householder, a life he already knows is built on an illusion. So while the city parties, Siddhartha's heart is heavy as lead. Night falls. The tipping point arrives. He walks through the palace halls. He enters the chambers where the musicians and dancers, the most beautiful women in the land, have fallen asleep after the celebration. Usually, this is a scene of seduction, beauty, glamour. But tonight, the lights are dim, the performance is over, and Siddhartha sees the truth. They are sprawled out in awkward angles, mouths open, drooling, some grinding their teeth, limbs tangled, clothes in disarray. The glamour is gone. He doesn't see a harem. He sees a graveyard. He sees bodies that are already decaying, just waiting for time to catch up. It hits him in the gut. This is the reality of physical life. It's repulsive. It's temporary. It's a lie. He turns away and goes to his own chamber. There she is, Yashodhara, sleeping. Her hand is resting protectively over the head of the baby, Rahula. This is the hardest moment of his life. He stands in the doorway. He wants to hold his son. He wants to say goodbye, but he freezes. If I move her hand, he thinks, she will wake up. And if she wakes up, it's over. The tears, the pleading, the guilt. He will crumble. He won't be able to leave. So he doesn't touch them. He takes a mental photograph, turns his back on everything he loves, and walks out into the dark. He finds Channa, his charioteer. He says, "Saddle Kanthaka, we're leaving." Channa thinks he's crazy, but he obeys. They mount the horse, Kanthaka, a magnificent animal, and head for the gates. Now, legend says the gods muffled the sound of the horse's hooves and swung the massive iron gates open so they wouldn't creak. Maybe that happened. Or maybe Siddhartha was just so determined that nothing could make a sound loud enough to stop him. They ride. As they leave the city limits, a voice whispers in the dark. Some call it Mara, the demon of desire. "Stop, Siddhartha. Go back. In 7 days, you will rule the world. You will be the wheel-turning monarch. Everything will be yours. Absolute power. It's the final test." Siddhartha doesn't even slow down. He says, "I don't want the world. I want the truth." They ride through the night, putting miles between the prince and his past. They reach the river Anoma, the point of no return. He dismounts. He looks at Channa. "Take the horse. Take the jewels. Go back." Channa is weeping. The horse, Kantaka, licks Siddhartha's feet. They say the animal knew. Legend tells us Kantaka died of a broken heart shortly after returning to the palace. That's the cost. But Siddhartha isn't done. He draws his sword. With one hand, he grabs his long, princely hair, the symbol of his warrior caste, his nobility, his status. Slash. He cuts it off. He throws it away. He takes off the silk robes, the gold, the finery. He finds a hunter passing by, or perhaps a deity in disguise, and trades his royal clothes for rags, rough ochre robes, the color of earth, the uniform of the outcast. The prince is dead. The ascetic is born. Back at the palace, the sun comes up, but it's a dark day. Channa rides in alone. The ornaments are thrown on the floor. The king rages. He screams at his ministers. "Go find him. Bring him back." Yashodhara wakes up to an empty bed and a pile of jewels where her husband used to be. The grief is suffocating. They send search parties. They send priests. They send the smartest debaters in the kingdom to argue him back. But it's too late. The man they are looking for doesn't exist anymore. He's gone into the forest, and he isn't coming back until he has the answer. So Siddhartha walks away from the palace. The gates close behind him, and you'd think, based on the pop culture version of the story, that he walks straight to a tree, closes his eyes, and wakes up as the Buddha. But that is not what happened, not even close. What followed was 6 years of absolute failure, 6 years of hitting dead ends. He didn't start as a master, he started as a student. He did what any rational seeker would do. He went to the experts. He sought out the most renowned spiritual giants of his time because he assumed they held the keys. His first stop was a teacher named Alara Kalama. This guy was the real deal in terms of meditation. He taught something called the sphere of nothingness. It's a state of deep, profound trance. And Siddhartha, he was a prodigy. He didn't just learn the technique, he mastered it. In no time at all, he equaled his teacher. Alara Kalama was so impressed, he actually offered to split the leadership of the community. He said, "Stay here. We will lead the school together." But Siddhartha looked at what he had achieved. He had found peace, sure. When he was in the trance, the suffering vanished. But the moment he opened his eyes, the world was still there. Old age, sickness, and death were still waiting. It was like taking a painkiller. It masks the symptoms, but it doesn't cure the disease. So he walked away. He finds a second teacher, Uddaka Ramaputta. This teacher is operating on an even higher level, teaching the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. It's the absolute limit of what the human mind can do with concentration. It is the highest mental state possible before you basically disconnect from reality. And again, Siddhartha masters it. He climbs to the very peak of human consciousness. And again, the offer comes. Take over, lead us. And again, Siddhartha refuses, because he realized something terrifying. Even these high states were temporary. You go up, you feel bliss, and then gravity pulls you back down. You are still trapped in the cycle. He realized that polishing the cage doesn't mean you're free. So he leaves the teachers. He's done with philosophy. He decides that if the mind isn't the problem, maybe the body is. This leads him to a place called Uruvela, near modern-day Bodh Gaya. It's a fierce landscape, forests, a river, intense heat. And he's not alone. 5 ascegs, the Panchavagya, join him. They're looking at him like he's the messiah of pain. They think he's going to crack the code first. And Siddhartha declares war on his own body. This is phase 2, self-mortification. And this wasn't just skipping lunch. This was torture. He starts with breath control. He would hold his breath until the pressure built up so high that he heard a roaring, rushing sound in his ears, like a waterfall. Violent headaches that felt like a sword cutting through his skull. But he didn't stop. He moved to the elements. In the blistering heat of the Indian summer, he sat in the open sun. In the freezing winter nights, he sat deep in the forest, naked. He was trying to burn the desire out of his system. Then came the fasting. He began reducing his food intake methodically, down to the size of a hollow nut, then a generic soup, then eventually a single grain of rice a day, sometimes a jujube fruit. The result was horrific. If you've ever seen the statue of the fasting Buddha, you know what this looks like. It's not the chubby, happy figure we see in restaurants. It's a skeleton wrapped in skin. He said that when he tried to touch his belly skin, he grabbed his backbone. His eyes were sunken deep into his skull, like stones at the bottom of a deep well. His skin turned dark and scaly. He had no energy. He would try to stand up to relieve himself and just collapse face first into the dirt. He was letting his life force fade, inch by inch, believing that if he suffered enough, the universe would owe him the truth. And then the collapse. He's down by the Nirvana River. He tries to bathe, but he's so weak he can barely pull himself out of the water. He collapses on the bank. He's dying. This is the moment. The experiment has failed. He lies there, gasping for air, and a realization hits him. A dead seeker finds no truth. He had lived the life of ultimate luxury in the palace. That didn't work. Now he has lived the life of ultimate torture, and that didn't work either. Both extremes were traps. As he lay there, basically waiting to die, a memory surfaced, a flashback. He wasn't a prince, he wasn't an ascetic. He was just a boy, sitting under a rose apple tree while his father was working. He remembered entering a state of natural, spontaneous joy. He wasn't forcing it. He wasn't holding his breath. He wasn't starving. He was just aware and happy. It was the first jhana, but it came from a place of health, not torture. He realized pleasure that is not born of sensory addiction is not the enemy. The body isn't the villain, it's the vehicle. You can't drive a car to the destination if you slash the tires. Just then, a village girl named Sujata appears. She thinks he's a tree spirit because he looks so otherworldly and emaciated. She offers him a bowl of kheer, milk rice. It's rich, sweet, solid food. This is the pivotal moment. Siddhartha looks at the bowl. If he eats it, he breaks his vows. He admits failure in the eyes of his peers. But he chooses life. He eats. Strength returns to his limbs. The fog clears. But actions have consequences. The 5 companions, those guys who are watching him with such admiration, they are disgusted. To them, he just sold out. They see him eating and think, he's returned to luxury. He's weak. He gave up. They don't see the wisdom. They only see the rice. So they leave him. They walk away in a huff, leaving Siddhartha entirely alone. And this is important. He had to lose everything. He lost his kingdom, he lost his teachers, he lost his ideology, and now he lost his only friends. He is stripped bare. No safety net, no dogma. Just a man sitting by a river, ready to look at reality with fresh eyes. The experiments were over. The real work was about to begin. So he stands at the edge of the Anoma River. This isn't just a change of clothes, it's a dissolution of the ego. Siddhartha takes a sword and hacks off his long princely hair. The heavy jewelry, the silk robes that smell like palace incense. He hands them to his charioteer, Channa, and sends him home. He puts on the rags of a hunter. He is nobody now, just a wanderer in the dust. He makes his way to Rajagaha, begging for scraps, and he radiates such a strange, intense nobility that King Bimbisara spots him. The king offers him a throne, wealth, an army. It's the final test of the old life. But Siddhartha looks at him and says, essentially, you don't get it. I'm trying to escape a burning house, and you're offering me a bigger chair to sit in while it burns. He rejects the power, but promises to come back if he finds the way out. He dives into the spiritual marketplace of ancient India. He finds Alara Kalama, a master of meditation. Siddhartha is a prodigy. In no time, he masters the sphere of nothingness. He dissolves his mind into a void. It's peaceful, it's blissful, but then he opens his eyes, and the world is still there. The suffering is still there. Alara offers to make him a co-leader, but Siddhartha walks away. He finds another teacher, Udaka, who teaches him an even higher state, the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. It is the absolute peak of mental abstraction. He masters that too, but he realizes these are just vacations. You can check into a hotel of mental bliss for 1,000 years, but eventually you have to check out. And when you do, you still get old, you still get sick, you still die. It wasn't the answer. So he swings the pendulum to the other extreme. If indulging the mind didn't work, maybe he has to destroy the body. He settles in Uruvela, a rough patch of forest, and joins 5 other hardcore ascetics. These guys believe the body is the enemy. They think if you punish the flesh enough, the soul breaks free. Siddhartha becomes the champion of self-torture. He plays a war game against his own biology. He holds his breath until the pressure in his ears sounds like a roaring waterfall, until he feels like a sword is carving through his skull. He sits in the scorching sun all day and the freezing forest at night. He sleeps on thorns. He lives in charnel grounds, sitting among rotting corpses to kill his fear of death. Then comes the starvation. He reduces his food to a single grain of rice a day, sometimes a single jujube food. His body consumes itself. The texts describe this with terrifying clarity. His ribs stick out like the rafters of a collapsed barn. His eyes are sunk so deep in his skull, they look like stones at the bottom of a dry well. If he touches his stomach, he can feel his spine. He is a walking skeleton, fueled by sheer willpower. But it's a dead end. One day, he tries to bathe in the river and just collapses. He's drowning. He crawls out, lying in the mud, gasping. He realizes he's inches from death, and if he dies now, he hasn't conquered suffering. He's just a dead ascetic. 6 years of pain, and he knows nothing. That's when the breakthrough happens. Not a vision of gods, but a memory. He remembers being a little boy, sitting under a rose apple tree while his father plowed a field. He remembers a moment of pure, spontaneous joy. He wasn't starving himself. He wasn't holding his breath. He was just alert, happy, connected. He thinks, why am I afraid of that pleasure? It wasn't greedy, it was natural. He realizes a starving body can't support a focused mind. You can't tune a guitar if the strings are snapped. A village woman named Sujata sees him. She thinks he's a tree spirit because he looks so otherworldly, and she offers him a bowl of milk rice. He eats it. Solid food. The 5 ascetics watching him are horrified. They think he's quit. They think he's gone soft. They spit on the ground and leave him. Good. He needs to be alone. He's done with teachers. He's done with dogmas. He's done with torturing himself. He eats the rice. He gets his strength back. He walks to the Nirvana river, and there's a shift in the air. The desperation is gone. It's replaced by a cold, hard determination. He walks to a peepal tree, the Bodhi tree. He meets a grass cutter, Sathya, who hands him 8 bundles of kusa grass. Siddhartha tosses them down to make a cushion. He sits facing east. And this is it, the final stand. He makes a vow that vibrates through history. He doesn't pray for help. He issues a command to his own biology. He says, "Let my skin dry up. Let my hand wither. Let my bones turn to dust. I am not moving from this seat until I tear through the veil of ignorance. I am not getting up until I know." And the silence of the forest closes in around him. "6 years. That's how long he starved himself. 6 years of eating a single grain of rice a day, holding his breath until his ears popped, trying to force enlightenment through sheer willpower. It didn't work. He looked like a skeleton. He was dying. And that's when he realized something terrifying. The path of extreme self-denial is just as useless as the path of extreme indulgence. Both are traps. So he walks to the Nirvana river. It's a beautiful spot, Uruvela, peaceful. The trees are thick, the river flows gently. It's the kind of place where the mind naturally settles. But he's weak. He can barely stand. That's when Sujata comes in. She's a village girl who thinks he's a tree spirit because he's so gaunt and still. She offers him milk rice, just a bowl of pudding. But this isn't just a meal, it's the turning point. He eats. He accepts that the body needs strength to support the mind. He throws the golden bowl into the river, and some legends say it floated upstream, against the current, just like his teachings were about to go against the current of the entire world. He's ready now. He meets a grass cutter, Sathya, who gives him 8 handfuls of kusa grass, simple grass. He arranges it under the Bodhi tree. He sits down facing east. And this is it. This is the moment of no return. He makes a vow that sends shivers down the spine of history. He says, "Let my skin, my sinews, and my bones dry up. Let my flesh and blood dissolve. I will not move from this seat until I have attained supreme enlightenment." He locks his legs. The Vajrasana, the immovable spot. He isn't getting up. He either wakes up or he dies right there. But the universe doesn't just let you become a Buddha without a fight. Enter Mara. Now, don't think of Mara as just a demon with horns. Mara is the killer, the evil one. But really, Mara is the personification of everything inside you that holds you back. He is your doubt, your lust, your fear, your ego. Mara shows up and he brings an army. He tries to terrify Siddhartha. He sends storms, darkness, weapons. But Siddhartha sits there, completely still. He doesn't fight back. He doesn't get angry. He rests in loving kindness. And because he has no fear, the weapons meant to kill him turn into flowers before they even touch him. Arrows become lotus petals falling gently around his feet. Violence cannot touch a mind that has no violence in it. So Mara changes tactics. If fear doesn't work, maybe pleasure will. He sends his daughters, Tanha, Arati, and Radha, craving, boredom, and passion. They dance, they whisper, they promise him the world. But Siddhartha looks right through them. He sees the skeleton beneath the skin. He sees that pleasure is fleeting, just a sugarcoating on suffering. They fade away. Mara is desperate now. He challenges Siddhartha's right to be there. He screams, "Who are you to claim this seat? I am the Lord of this world. Who is your witness?" There's no one else around, just a man under a tree. So Siddhartha doesn't argue. He doesn't debate. He simply moves his right hand from his lap and touches the ground, the Bhumisparsha mudra. He calls the earth itself to testify. He says, "The earth is my witness." And the earth roars in response. The ground shakes. The delusion of Mara is washed away. The ego is shattered. The army vanishes. The battle is won, not by fighting, but by standing firm in the truth. Now the real work begins. The night falls. The first watch, from dusk until midnight. His mind becomes like a polished mirror. He starts to remember, not just his childhood, not just his life as a prince, everything. He sees his past lives, 1, then 10, then thousands, then millions. He sees himself as a king, a beggar, a tiger, a god, a hungry ghost. He sees the endless cycle of birth and death. He sees the tears he shed in all those lives would fill the oceans. It's exhausting. It's a prison. He sees that we've all been here, doing this, forever. Midnight strikes, the second watch. His vision expands. He gets the divine eye. He stops looking at himself and looks at the universe. He sees beings dying and being reborn, disappearing and reappearing, like bubbles in a pot of boiling water. And he sees why. It's not random. It's karma. He sees that actions have consequences, that hatred leads to hell, that kindness leads to heaven. But it's all still a trap. It's all still spinning in the wheel. High and low, rich and poor. It's just a game of cause and effect. Then comes the third watch, 3 a.m. to dawn. This is the surgery. He takes the scalpel of his wisdom and cuts to the root. Asavakaya Nana, the destruction of all taints. He asks the ultimate question. Why? Why do we suffer? Why do we die? And he traces it back. Death comes from birth. Birth comes from becoming. Becoming comes from grasping. All the way back to the source. Ignorance. Not knowing the truth. He discovers dependent origination, the chain that binds us. And then he sees the way out. The Four Noble Truths flash into his mind. Suffering is real. It has a cause. It has an end. And there is a path to that end. The morning star rises. The sun breaks the horizon. And the man who sat down is gone. The Buddha remains. He lets out the great lion's roar. He looks at his own ego, the creator of all his pain, and says, "House builder, you are seen. You will not build a house again. Your rafters are broken. Your ridgepole is shattered. My mind has reached the unconditioned. It's over. He is free." But he doesn't rush off to start a podcast. He stays. For 7 weeks, he stays in the bliss of liberation. Week 1, he just sits there, enjoying the freedom. Week 2, he stands and stares at the Bodhi tree without blinking for 7 days. Just gratitude. Can you imagine that focus? Gratitude to the tree that sheltered him. Week 3, he walks back and forth, creating a path of golden light. Week 4, he meditates on the complex laws of the universe, the Abhidharma, and his body starts glowing with 6 colors, the colors of the Buddhist flag today. Week 5, a Brahmin comes by, acting all high and mighty because of his caste. The Buddha tells him straight, "You aren't a Brahmin by birth, you're a Brahmin by your actions." Radical stuff. Week 6, a massive storm hits, rain lashes down, and the Snake King, Muchalinda, comes out of the earth. He coils his body around the Buddha and flares his hood like an umbrella to protect him. It's nature acknowledging its master. Finally, week 7, 2 merchants, Tapusa and Balika, pass by. They offer him rice cakes and honey. They become the first lay disciples. They take refuge in the Buddha and the Dhamma. The Sangha, the community of monks, doesn't exist yet, but the wheel has started turning. The awakening is complete. Now, the mission begins. So, let's set the scene. We aren't in a golden palace anymore. We're in a dusty deer park in Sarnath. The Buddha has just woken up. He's done it. He's cracked the code of human existence. But he's not alone. He walks up to 5 guys. These aren't just random strangers. These were his old drinking buddies, metaphorically speaking. They were the 5 ascetics who used to starve themselves alongside him in the forest. When the Buddha realized that starving himself was useless and ate a bowl of rice porridge, these guys bailed. They thought he was weak, a quitter, a sellout. So when they see him approaching now, they probably roll their eyes. They plan to ignore him, but they can't. There's something different about him now. A radiance, a calm that is physically heavy in the air. They shut up. They sit down. And the Buddha opens his mouth to deliver the Dhammacakkappavammasiddha. That's a mouthful, but it just means setting the wheel of Dharma in motion. This is the first sermon. This is where it all begins. He doesn't start with magic tricks. He doesn't talk about gods or heavens. He starts with a hard reality check. He lays out the middle way. See, he'd lived as a prince with every luxury imaginable. Sensual indulgence. It didn't work. Then he lived as a skeleton in the woods, eating 1 grain of rice a day. Self-mortification. That didn't work either. He tells them the truth is in the middle, like a sitar string. Too loose, it won't play. Too tight, it snaps. You have to be tuned. And then he drops the hammer, the 4 Noble Truths. Think of this like a medical diagnosis. The Buddha is the doctor. He's looking at the patient, humanity, and saying, I have some bad news, but I also have the cure. Truth number 1, dukkha, the truth of suffering. Now pause here, because this is where most people get Buddhism wrong. They hear life is suffering and think, wow, what a pessimist. But suffering is a terrible translation. It's too heavy. It implies you're being tortured in a dungeon. The word dukkha is closer to unsatisfactoriness, or a wheel that's slightly off axle. It bumps, it grinds, it's never quite smooth. The Buddha breaks this down into 3 flavors, and you will recognize every single one of them. First, dukkha, the obvious stuff. You stub your toe, you get the flu, you get old, your back hurts, someone dies, pain. That's the easy one to understand. But then it gets trickier. Viparinama dukkha, the suffering of change. This is the anxiety that ruins a good moment. You're eating the perfect meal, but you know it's going to end. You're in a great relationship, but you're terrified they might leave. Even happiness is stressful because it's impermanent. It slips through your fingers like sand. And finally, the deep one, sankhara dukkha, the suffering of conditioned existence. This is that background hum of anxiety, that subtle feeling that something is just missing. It's the existential itch you can't scratch. It's the feeling that no matter how much money, fame, or love you get, you're still not quite whole. Why? Because we cling to the 5 aggregates: our body, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, consciousness, thinking they are us. They aren't. They're just processes. And clinging to a shifting process is like trying to hug a waterfall. You're going to get bruised. So, the doctor has identified the illness. Now for the cause. Truth number 2, samudaya, the origin of suffering. Why do we hurt? Is it bad luck? Is it punishment? No, it's tanha, thirst, craving. But it's not just wanting a sandwich. It's a desperate, burning need for things to be different than they are. We consume reality, but we're never full. The Buddha gets specific. There are 3 types of this thirst. First, kamatanya, sensory craving. I want that car. I want that sex. I want that taste. We chase the dopamine hit over and over, shocked when it fades. Second, bhavatanya, the craving to become, to be somebody, ambition. I want to be famous. I want to be immortal. I want to be the winner. It's the ego trying to solidify itself. And third, the dangerous one we don't talk about enough, vibhavatanya, the craving for non-existence. This is when life gets too hard and you just want to switch it off. Escapism, depression, the desire for annihilation. The root of all this? Avijja, ignorance. We crave because we're delusional. We think if we just get that one thing, we'll be happy forever. We ignore the impermanence. We ignore the reality. So we keep drinking salt water, wondering why we're still thirsty. But here is the twist. The doctor has good news. Truth number 3, nirodha, the cessation of suffering. It can stop. You don't have to suffer. If the cause is craving, then the cure is the end of craving. This is nirvana. People make nirvana sound mystical and weird, like floating in the clouds. It's not. The word literally means blowing out, like a candle. Imagine a fire fueled by greed, hatred, and delusion. Nirvana is just the moment that fuel runs out. The fire goes out. What's left? Coolness, peace. It's not death. The Buddha achieved nirvana at 35 and lived until 80. That's called sopatisesa nirvana, nirvana with remainder. He still had a body, he still felt back pain, but his mind, untouched. No sticky attachment, no burning thirst, just pure, unclouded awareness. And when the body finally gives out, anupatisesa nirvana, nirvana without remainder. The flame doesn't go north or south, it just ceases. Total freedom from the cycle.
So, how do we get there? You can't just wish for it. You need a prescription. Truth number 4, Magga, the path. The Buddha didn't just say, stop craving and walk away. He gave a method, the Noble Eightfold Path. We are going to dive deep into this later, but for now, look at the structure. It's a training regimen. It's not a set of commandments from a god. It's a set of skills. Wisdom, seeing reality clearly, ethical conduct, living in a way that doesn't cause harm or regret, and mental discipline, training the mind to be focused and still. This was the first lecture. The 5 ascetics, they listened, and one of them, Kandanya, got it immediately. He became the first enlightened disciple. The wheel started turning. The diagnosis was made, the cure was offered. The rest is just taking the medicine. So we've talked about the suffering. We've talked about the cause. We've even talked about the fact that there is a way out. But now we actually have to walk it. This is the 4th noble truth. If the first 3 were the diagnosis, this is the prescription. It's the Noble Eightfold Path. And right off the bat, you need to understand something crucial. This isn't a ladder. It's not like you do step 1, finish it, and then graduate to step 2. It's a wheel, a dharma chakra. All these spokes turn at the same time. You don't wait to be perfectly wise before you start acting ethically, and you don't wait to be a saint before you start meditating. You do it all, messy and imperfect, all at once. It starts with what the Buddha called the middle way, and this is probably the most misunderstood concept in Buddhism. It doesn't mean being average. It doesn't mean doing things halfway. It means navigating between 2 dangerous cliffs. On one side, you have sensual indulgence, chasing every pleasure, eating everything, buying everything, drowning in dopamine. That's a dead end. On the other side, you have self-mortification, punishing yourself, starving yourself, thinking that pain equals holiness. That's also a dead end. The path walks right down the center. It's about balance. Not a boring balance, but a dynamic, active balance. Like riding a bike, you're always adjusting. To make this manageable, the Buddha grouped these 8 steps into 3 buckets: wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. Let's start with wisdom, or paññā, because if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter how fast you run. The first step is right view. This is the foundation. It's seeing the world as it actually is, not how you want it to be. On a basic level, it's understanding cause and effect, karma, understanding that your actions have consequences. But on a deeper level, it's intuitively grasping the 4 noble truths. It's seeing impermanence. You look at your car, your body, your career, and you deeply understand this will not last. That's not depressing, it's liberating. It stops you from clutching at smoke. Once you see things clearly, your heart has to follow. That's the second step, right intention, or right resolve. This is about where your emotional compass is pointing. You might know the truth intellectually, but are you willing to change? This step asks for 3 things: renunciation, which is just a fancy word for the willingness to let go, goodwill, wishing well for others, and harmlessness, deciding not to be a source of pain in the world. It's a shift in attitude. You stop asking, what can I get? And start asking, what can I let go of? You stop looking at people as obstacles and start seeing them as fellow travelers who are also suffering. Now we move to the second bucket, ethical conduct, or sila. This is where the rubber meets the road. You can't have a peaceful mind if your life is chaos. So we start with right speech. And man, is this one hard.
It's not just don't lie. It's don't gossip, don't slander, don't use harsh, abusive words. And maybe the hardest one, don't engage in idle chatter, talking just to hear your own voice. The Buddha warned us about this because speech is powerful. It can heal or it can destroy. If you spend your day lying or trash-talking your coworkers, you can't sit on a meditation cushion at night and expect peace. Your mind will be vibrating with that negative energy. Next is right action. This is physical. It's the baseline of being a decent human. Don't kill, don't steal, don't abuse others sexually. It sounds simple, like kindergarten rules, but look at the world. It's clearly not that simple for us. This isn't about commandments from a God who will punish you. It's practical. If you steal, you're looking over your shoulder. If you cheat, you're living in anxiety. Right action is about safety. It creates a boundary around your life where your mind can actually relax. You aren't creating new enemies. You aren't creating new regrets. You're clearing the debris off the path so you can walk forward. Then comes right livelihood. This one hits home for a lot of us. You spend 40 hours a week at work. If that work involves harming others, you can't separate that from your spiritual life. You can't be a saint on the weekends and a predator on weekdays. The Buddha was specific. No dealing in weapons, no meat production, no intoxicants, no poisons. But the principle is broader. Are you earning your keep in a way that adds suffering to the world, or are you alleviating it? If your paycheck comes from exploitation, your mind will carry that weight. Right livelihood means your survival doesn't cost someone else their life. Finally, we get to the engine room, mental discipline, or samadhi. This is the training. It starts with right effort. Think of your mind as a garden. Right effort is the gardening. It has 4 parts. First, you prevent weeds, negative thoughts, from taking root. Second, if the weeds are already there, you pull them out. Third, you plant seeds, good thoughts, kindness, focus. And fourth, you water the flowers that are already blooming. It's constant work. You don't just let your mind wander into dark alleys. You stand guard. You take responsibility for the energy you're allowing into your mental space. This leads to right mindfulness, sati. You've heard this word a million times, but what is it? It's clear, non-judgmental awareness. It's knowing you're angry while you're angry. It's knowing you're breathing while you're breathing. The Buddha gave us 4 foundations here: watching the body, watching feelings, watching the state of mind, and watching mental objects. Most of us live in the past or the future. We're replaying arguments or rehearsing anxieties. Right mindfulness snaps you back to the now. It's the anchor. It stops you from being swept away by the river of your own thoughts. And when you have mindfulness, you can develop right concentration, samadhi. This is the laser beam, one-pointedness of mind. This is what you do in deep meditation. You focus on the breath or a mantra until the mind unifies. The distractions fall away. You enter the jhanas, states of deep absorption and bliss. But be careful here. This isn't the goal. We don't meditate just to get high on silence. We build this concentration so we can turn it like a microscope onto reality. We use this sharp, steady mind to gain insight, to do the work of wisdom we talked about at the start. See how it connects? Wisdom tells you why to practice. Ethics cleans up your life so you can practice. Mental discipline gives you the tools to deepen that wisdom. It's a self-reinforcing loop. You keep going round the wheel, getting deeper every time. And where does it end? Nirvana, the cessation of suffering. But remember the raft parable. The Buddha said this path is like a raft you build to cross a dangerous river. You paddle across, fighting the current, doing the work. But once you get to the other side, you don't pick the raft up and carry it on your head. You leave it. The teachings are a tool to get you free.
not a burden to carry forever. Use the raft, cross the river, then let it go. So think of the Buddha less like a god and more like a physician, a doctor who walks into the room, takes one look at the human condition, and spots the symptoms immediately. He didn't just say, life is hard. He gave a specific diagnosis. He called it the tilakkhana, the 3 marks of existence. These aren't just philosophical ideas you debate in a classroom. They are the actual texture of reality. They are the fingerprints found on absolutely everything in this universe. Your body, your thoughts, that coffee mug on your desk, the stars exploding overhead. Everything conditioned bears these 3 marks. And if you don't see them, you're flying blind. The first mark is anicca, impermanence. Now, we all nod our heads at this. We say, sure, everything changes. But we don't really get it. We think of change as something that happens to things, like a car that gets rusty over 10 years. But the Buddha went deeper. He said existence isn't a static thing that changes occasionally. Existence is change. It's flux. It's a process. It's not a noun. It's a verb. Look at the gross level. Seasons turn, people age, cups break. That's easy to see. But zoom in, look at the subtle level. Right now, your cells are vibrating, dying, regenerating. Your consciousness isn't a solid block of you. It's a stream of moments. A thought arises, it passes. A sound arises, it passes. It's like a movie reel. The movie looks like one continuous story, but it's actually thousands of separate frames flashing by so fast you can't see the gaps. That's the illusion. We think we are solid. We think the world is solid, but it's all just slipping through our fingers like sand. And that's the problem. We want permanence. We crave it. We build stone houses and sign lifetime contracts because we are terrified of the flux. But you can't fight the nature of reality. This resistance brings us to the second mark, dukkha. This is usually translated as suffering, but that's a terrible translation. It's too dramatic. If you have a headache, that's suffering. But what about when you're eating your favorite meal? Is that suffering? No, but it is dukkha. A better word is unsatisfactoriness or imperfection. Think of a wheel on a cart that's slightly out of round. It still turns, but every rotation has a bump, a little friction. That is dukkha. It's the sense that things are never quite right, never fully resolved. You have the obvious stuff, dukkha, physical pain, grief, breaking your leg. That hurts. Then you have viparinama dukkha, the suffering of change. This is the anxiety you feel even when things are good, because deep down you know it's going to end. The vacation will be over, the lover might leave, the youth will fade. And finally, the deepest one, sankhara dukkha. This is just the existential weight of being a conditioned being. It's that background hum of anxiety, the pressure of constantly having to maintain this self against a world that wants to tear it apart. And this leads to the hardest pill to swallow, the third mark, anatta, non-self. This is where the ego puts up a fight. We are obsessed with I, my life, my story, my soul. We think there is a little pilot inside our head driving the body. But the Buddha looked for the pilot and couldn't find him. He broke it down. Look at the body. Is that you? No, it changes. It gets sick without your permission. What about your feelings? They come and go like weather. Your perceptions? Your mental habits? Your consciousness? None of it is permanent. None of it is you. There's this famous dialogue between King Milinda and the sage Nagasena. Nagasena points to a chariot and asks,
Is the axle the chariot? Is the wheel the chariot? Is the frame the chariot? The king says no. Nagasena says, so where is the chariot? The chariot is just a label for the assembly of parts. It's a convention. Same with you.
Self is just a label for a pile of aggregates: body, feeling, perception, mental formations, consciousness. It feels real, but there is no ghost in the machine. It's a process happening without an owner.
Here is the kicker. These three marks are locked together in a chain of logic. Because things are impermanent, anicca, they are unreliable. Because they are unreliable, they are unsatisfactory, dukkha. And because they are unsatisfactory and outside your control, they cannot be a permanent self, anatta. If this body were really you could order it not to age. You could command it not to get sick. But you can't.
So why does this matter? Why is this the only lecture you need? Because realizing this isn't depressing. It's liberation. It's the moment you stop trying to hold on to the hot coal. When you see that nothing is permanent, you stop clinging. When you see there is no solid self to defend, you stop taking everything so personally. You don't just understand it intellectually, you see it. You feel the disenchantment, which sounds negative, but it just means breaking the spell. You wake up, and that is the only way to find the one thing that isn't marked by suffering, Nirvana. Most people get karma wrong. They treat it like some cosmic reward system or a spiritual vending machine. You put $1 in, you get a candy bar out. You punch someone, and the universe punches you back. But that's not it. That's fairy dust. In the Buddha's time, the word karma didn't mean fate. It didn't mean destiny. It literally just meant action, doing, work. That's it. The Buddha took this boring, everyday word and revolutionized it. He stripped away the rituals and the chanting and pointed directly at your mind. He said, it is intention that I call karma. See, that's the game changer. It's not about what your hands do, it's about why you did it. If a surgeon cuts you open to save your life and a mugger cuts you open to steal your wallet, the physical action is identical. Knife enters skin. But the karma, totally different. One is rooted in compassion, the other in greed. So stop worrying about accidental sins. If you step on a bug you didn't see, that's not bad karma. That's just physics. But if you see that bug and crunch it because you're angry at your boss, that's karma, because you just trained your mind to be a little bit more cruel. Think of it like agriculture. This is the oldest metaphor in the book for a reason. You plant a seed. That seed is the action. The fruit, the vipaka, is the result. But here's the thing about farming. It takes time. You don't plant an apple seed and eat an apple 5 minutes later. Results can be immediate, sure. You touch fire, you burn. But usually, it takes years, sometimes lifetimes. The fruit ripens when the conditions are right. This is why you see terrible people living the high life and good people suffering. It's confusing. It feels unfair. But the Buddha would say you're just looking at a snapshot of a very long movie. The seeds from the past are ripening now, and the seeds you're planting now haven't broken ground yet. But is it just a math equation? A sin for a sin? No, it's fluid. The Buddha gave this incredible teaching about a salt crystal. If you drop a lump of salt into a small cup of water, that water becomes undrinkable. It's ruined. But if you drop that same lump of salt into the river Ganges, the river doesn't change. It's too vast. The salt, the bad deed, is the same. But the container, your character, is different. If you have a huge reservoir of virtue, wisdom, and kindness, a mistake doesn't ruin you. It's diluted. But if your mind is small, petty, and cramped,
Even a tiny mistake makes your life bitter.
We have to talk about the biggest trap, though: fatalism. People use karma to justify being passive. They say, well, I'm poor because of my past lives. Or worse, they look at someone suffering and think they must have deserved that. That is dangerous rubbish. The Buddha taught that karma is just one of many laws. There's biology, there's weather, there's physics. If a rock falls on your head, it might not be cosmic retribution. It might just be gravity. Do not use karma to victim blame, and more importantly, don't use it to surrender. You are not a slave to your past. You are the architect of your future. That's the empowering part. Every moment is a fork in the road. Sure, the past pushes you. It creates tendencies, it creates pressure. But right now, in this split second, you have a choice. You can break the pattern. You can choose patience over anger, generosity over greed. That's the practice. And this engine keeps running. It fuels rebirth, your habits, your cravings, your heaviness at the moment of death. It propels consciousness forward. But the goal isn't to pile up good karma so you can be reborn as a billionaire. That's just golden handcuffs. You're still stuck in the system. The ultimate goal is to break the machine, to stop the wheel. The enlightened one, the arhat, still acts. They eat, they walk, they speak, but there's no sticky residue, no I behind it, no craving for a result. They are just acting functionally. The fire goes out. The seeds stop planting. That is freedom. That is nirvana.
Everyone talks about nirvana like it's some kind of cosmic heaven, a luxury spa for the soul where you float around on a cloud forever. But if you actually look at the word, it's terrifyingly simple. In Sanskrit, nirva literally means to blow out, like a candle. And that scares people because we love our candles.
We love our little flames of identity. So when the Buddha says the goal of life is to blow out, our immediate reaction is panic. We think it means nothingness. We think it means the lights go out and the show is over. Just a black void where you used to be. But that's not it. You have to understand how fire was viewed back then. Fire was seen as something agitated. It was clinging to the wood for survival. It was trapped. So when the flame is blown out, it isn't destroyed. It's liberated. It's released from the fuel. So the question isn't if you get extinguished. The question is, what exactly are we blowing out? It's not you. It's the heat, it's the fever, it's the burning exhaustion of trying to be someone, trying to get something, trying to push away the world every single second of every single day. The Buddha called this fuel the three poisons, or the three fires: greed, hatred, and delusion. That's what's burning you up. Greed is that hunger that says, I need more to be okay. Hatred is that recoil that says, I need to destroy this to be safe. And delusion is just the fog that keeps you from seeing that neither of those strategies ever works. Nirvana is simply the moment the fuel runs out. The fire of greed goes out, the fire of hatred goes out, and suddenly it's cool. The Buddha actually called it that, the cool cave. It's not a place you go. It's just the cooling down of a fever you didn't even know you had. So what does that look like in real life? Because people get confused here. They think if you hit nirvana, you vanish in a puff of smoke. But there are two stages. The first one is called nirvana with remainder. That means you're still here. You have a body, you have senses. If I pinch you, it hurts. If you step on a Lego, you yell. But there is no mental suffering attached to it. The physical pain is just sensation. it doesn't become a story about how unfair life is. You are walking through the world, but you aren't stuck to it. You're like a bird flying through the air. You leave no track. Then comes the second stage, Parinirvana. This is when the body finally gives out, death. And people always ask the Buddha, where does the enlightened being go? Do they go north? Do they go to heaven? Do they merge with the universe? And the Buddha would just look at them and say, when a fire goes out, does it go north? Does it go south? It's a nonsense question. The fire doesn't go anywhere. It just ceases to be defined by the wood. It's not annihilation. It's just incomprehensible to the part of us that needs coordinates. This is why it's so hard to talk about. We live in a world of conditions. Everything is this because of that. Up, down, left, right. Born, died. Nirvana is the unconditioned. It has no birth. It has no death. So the Buddha usually described it by what it's not. Not earth, not water, not consciousness, not nothingness. It drives scholars crazy, but he did it to stop us from turning nirvana into another thing to crave. If he said it was bliss, our greedy little minds would say, I want the bliss, and we'd be right back in the trap. Different schools took this and ran with it in different ways. In the older teachings, the Theravada path, the focus is intense. You are the arhat. You are the lone warrior fighting your way out of the burning house. You get out, you cool the fire, you're done. But then the Mahayana tradition comes in and flips the script. They talk about the bodhisattva. This is someone who stands at the door of freedom and says, not yet. They vow to stay in the burning house until everyone else is out. The Mahayana folks even drop a massive bomb on the philosophy. They say samsara is nirvana. They say the burning world and the cool cave are actually the same place. The only difference is your perception. If you look with greed, it's hell. If you look with wisdom, it's perfect. It's a radical shift. It means you don't have to escape the world to find peace. You just have to wake up to the reality of right here, right now. So let's be clear about what this isn't. It is not heaven. Heaven is just another temporary hotel in the cycle of rebirth. You burn up your bid karma and you fall back down. Nirvana is the exit door. And it is not nihilism. The Buddha hated that idea. He wasn't saying nothing matters. He was saying, stop clinging to things that hurt you. It's the ultimate sanity. It's simply the end of the war. This is the engine room of Buddhism. This is where the magic happens, and frankly, where most people get lost. We call it Paticcasamuppada, or dependent origination. It sounds like a tongue twister, and it kind of is. But break it down. Paticca means dependent on, and samuppada is arising. It's not just cause and effect, like hitting a billiard ball. It's deeper. It's the idea that nothing, absolutely nothing, stands on its own. You don't exist in a vacuum. Your anger, your joy, your birth, your death, they are all leaning on something else to hold them up. The formula is actually shockingly simple. You don't need a PhD to get the logic. It goes like this. When this exists, that comes to be. With the arising of this, that arises. That's it. And the reverse is just as true. When this does not exist, that does not come to be. It's a ruthless mechanical law. It's not a God judging you, it's just gravity. If you step off the cliff, you fall. If the conditions for suffering are there, you suffer. This is the middle way. It kills the idea that you have an eternal, unchanging soul, because you're always changing based on conditions. But it also kills nihilism, the idea that nothing matters, because every tiny action ripples out and creates a result. Now, let's look at the machinery. The tradition breaks this down into 12 links, usually spread across 3 lifetimes: past, present, and future. It starts in the past, in the dark. The first link is ignorance, avijja. It's not stupidity, it's blindness. It's not knowing the Four Noble Truths. Think of a blind man stumbling forward with a stick. He doesn't know where the cliff edge is, but he keeps walking. Because we don't know better, we act. That's the second link. Volitional formations, sankhara. These are our karmic actions, the things we do, say, and think out of confusion. We are like a potter molding clay in the dark, shaping our future with clumsy hands. Those past actions launch us into the present. Boom. Consciousness, vijnana, arises. This is the spark of awareness in a new life, jumping like a monkey swinging from tree to tree. It doesn't stay put. It grabs on to a new existence. And consciousness needs a vehicle, right? That's name and form, nama, rupa, mind and body. They travel together like people in a boat. You can't have the boat without the passengers, and the passengers drown without the boat. Once you have a body, you have equipment. The 6 sense bases, salayatana, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. It's like an empty house with 6 windows, just waiting for something to fly in. And something always flies in. That's contact, phassa. The world hits you. Light hits the eye. Sound hits the ear. It's the spark when 2 sticks rub together. You can't avoid it. As long as you have senses, you will have contact. And the moment contact happens, you feel something. This is feeling, Vedana. It's pleasant, it's painful, or it's neutral. It's visceral. Like a man struck by an arrow, you feel the impact immediately. Now pay attention. Up until this point, you are just a victim of your past karma. You couldn't stop the contact. You couldn't stop the feeling. It's automatic. But here is where the trap snaps shut. This is the present cause of your future suffering, craving, tanha. This is the big one, the thirst. You feel pleasure and you scream, "Don't stop." You feel pain and you scream, "Get away." It's like drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you get. This craving hardens into clinging, upadana. You don't just want it, you grip it. You cling to your opinions, your rituals, your idea of self. You are a monkey clutching a piece of fruit, refusing to let go even if it traps your hand in the jar. This clinging fuels becoming. You are actively building your next existence right now. It's the potential energy, like a pregnant woman ready to give birth. You are gathering the fuel for the fire. And because you've built this potential, the result is inevitable. The future arrives. Birth, jati. You take shape again. A new role, a new struggle. And because you are born, you are doomed to the final link. Aging and death, jara marana, decay, sorrow, lamentation, pain. It's the corpse being carried to the cremation ground. The bill comes due. So, is that it? Are we just doomed to spin on this wheel forever? No, remember the formula. When this ceases, that ceases. You can't delete your past ignorance. You can't stop the contact hitting your senses today. But look at the link between feeling and craving. That is the weak link. That is the gap. When pain arises, you don't have to hate it. When pleasure arises, you don't have to chase it. You can just watch the feeling. If you cut the link there, if you replace craving with mindfulness, the whole chain collapses. No craving, no clinging. No clinging, no becoming. No becoming, no birth. No birth, no suffering. The wheel stops turning. You are free. This is the engine room. This is the blueprint of the prison.
we're going to talk about the 12 Nidānas, or the chain of dependent origination. And honestly, this is usually the boring part of the lecture where people tune out. Don't tune out. This is the mechanism that keeps you trapped in anxiety, in loops, in suffering. It's not a list, it's a domino effect. One thing falls and it smashes into the next, creating a chain reaction that ends in death. And then it resets and starts all over again. It starts in the dark. The first link is ignorance. The old texts call it the blind grandmother. But don't think of ignorance as just being uneducated. It's not about not reading enough books. It's deeper. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of reality. We think we are permanent. We think we are separate, solid selves. We aren't. We are blind to the fact that everything is changing, constantly. And because we are blind, we stumble. We walk forward in the dark, making mistakes. Because we can't see, we act. This leads to the second link, volitional formations. The image here is a potter spinning a wheel. Think about that. We are shaping our own destiny with every thought, every intention. Because we don't understand reality, we react to it. We create karma. We mold our mental patterns: anger, greed, kindness, fear. We are busy making pots in the dark. We are creating momentum, and that energy has to go somewhere. That energy pushes into consciousness. The monkey. Why a monkey? Because it's restless. It never stops. It jumps from branch to branch, from object to object. This is the spark of awareness that descends into a new life. It's the connector. Your body dies, but this karmic energy, this jumping monkey, needs a new tree. It grabs hold of a new existence. It's not you in the sense of a soul. It's a stream of consciousness propelled by all those pots you made in the dark. But consciousness can't exist in a vacuum. It needs a vehicle, so we get name and form. Picture people sitting in a boat. The boat is the body, form, and the people are the mind, name. You can't have the trip without the boat, and the boat is useless without the passengers. They rely on each other. If one sinks, they both go down. This is the moment the hardware and the software fuse together. The psychophysical organism is online. It's fragile. It's interdependent. It's ready to work. Now that the system is online, it needs to interact. It needs windows. This is the 6 sense spaces, an empty house with 6 windows: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and crucially, mind. The mind is a sense here. These are just openings. They are the interface. The equipment is installed. The radar is on. We are ready to receive data from the world. We are sitting inside this house, looking out, waiting for something to happen. And something always happens. Contact. The image is lovers embracing, but that's a bit romantic. It's really just a collision. The eye meets a shape. The ear meets a sound. The mind meets a thought. It's the spark. It's the moment the outside world crashes into your inside world. Without this contact, you're in a coma. But with it, the circuit is closed. The electricity flows. Immediate, instantly after contact comes feeling, and this is where it gets dangerous. The image is a man with an arrow in his eye. That sounds painful, but in Buddhism, feeling isn't emotion. It's the raw sensation tone. Is this pleasant? Is it painful? Or is it neutral? That's it. You see a face and instantly pleasant. You hear a noise, unpleasant. You sit in a chair, neutral. It happens before you even think about it. It's a gut check, and usually we are slaves to this. Because what do we do when we feel something? We react. Craving. The man drinking alcohol. We are thirsty. If the feeling was pleasant, we scream, "I want more of that." If it was painful, we scream, "Get this away from me." And if it was neutral, we get bored and look for stimulation. This thirst is the engine of the world. It's a frantic, desperate heat. We are never satisfied. We just drink, but we are already looking for the next glass. But we don't just want it. We grab it, clinging. The monkey grabbing a fruit. This is craving turned up to 11. It's obsession. It's not just, I like this opinion. It's, I am this opinion, and I will fight you for it. We cling to pleasures, sure, but we also cling to rules. We cling to rituals. Most tragic of all, we cling to the idea of self. We hold on to this me so tight, our knuckles turn white. We refuse to let go. And because we cling, we define ourselves, becoming. The image is a pregnant woman. The life is already there, growing. By clinging to who you think you are, by clinging to your desires, you create a solid identity. You build a world for yourself to inhabit. The karmic energy creates a massive potential. It's a thundercloud waiting to burst. You have set the stage. The script is written. And then the curtain rises. Birth. Manifestation. The cloud bursts. You are born into the situation you created. Maybe it's a physical birth in a new life, or maybe it's just the birth of a new you right now. A new ego. A new role. You step into the story you wrote with your craving. You exist. You are here. You are solid. But there is only one way this ends. Aging and death. The corpse being carried away. The system breaks down. It has to. Anything that is built must fall apart. This is the sorrow, the lamentation, the despair. It's the whole mass of suffering crashing down on you. And the worst part? It's not the end. Because in the confusion of death, blinded by ignorance, we start making formations again, and the wheel spins. So, is it hopeless? No. That's the genius of the Buddha. He didn't just map the prison, he showed us the door. You can't easily stop ignorance. That takes years of wisdom. You can't stop contact. You have eyes and ears. You will see and hear things. You can't even stop feeling. If you get pinched, it hurts. That's biology. The weak link is between feeling and craving. That is the battleground. That is the only space where you have a choice. When the sensation hits, when the arrow strikes the eye, you can pause. You can use mindfulness. You can say, this is just a pleasant sensation. I don't need to chase it. Or, this is painful. I don't need to hate it. You cut the link. You don't pick up the drink. You don't grab the fruit. And if you don't crave, you don't cling. If you don't cling, you don't become. And if you don't become, you are free. The chain snaps. The building collapses. Silence. You have to understand one thing before we even start. These aren't commandments. There is no bearded guy in the sky waiting to strike you down with lightning if you slip up. The Buddha wasn't a god, and he wasn't interested in being your boss. He called these Sigalovada, which means training rules. Think of them like the safety rails on a highway. You don't have to stay between the lines, but if you drive off a cliff, that's on you. It's voluntary. You take them on because you realize that living without them is messy. It's chaotic. Morality, or sila, isn't about being good so you get a gold star. It's the foundation. You can't build a skyscraper on a swamp, and you can't build wisdom on a mind that's agitated by guilt and drama. So let's look at the first one. Abstaining from killing. Panatipa. Sounds easy, right? Most of us aren't murderers. But look closer. This isn't just about humans. It covers anything that breathes. Animals, insects, the whole lot. It's about checking the impulse to destroy. Why do we kill? Because something annoys us or we want it out of our way. The mosquito bites you and smack.
That split-second reaction is anger, it's hate, and that is what you are trying to catch. Now, there's always a debate here about vegetarianism. Did the Buddha say you must not eat meat? Not exactly. He focused on the intention to kill. But let's be real. If you cultivate compassion, karuna, you naturally start caring about the suffering of all beings, not just the ones that look like you. It's about softening the heart. Then there is the second rule, taking what is not given. We usually call this stealing, but taking what is not given is deeper. It covers fraud, gambling, cheating on your taxes, or exploiting someone's time. It comes from a sense of lack, a hungry ghost inside you screaming, "I need more." When you take something that isn't yours, you are reinforcing the idea that you aren't enough, that you need to grab from the outside to be whole. The antidote is generosity, Dana, giving things away. It sounds counterintuitive, but when you give, you destroy that tightness in your chest. You prove to yourself that you have enough. You break the cycle of greed. Third is the messy one, sexual misconduct. This is where human beings get into the most trouble. The Buddha wasn't a prude, but he knew that sexual energy is like fire. It can cook your food, or it can burn your house down. For monks, it's celibacy, total stop. But for lay people, it's about boundaries. Are you harming someone? Are you breaking a commitment? Are you using someone's body just to scratch an itch? That's misconduct. It's using people as objects. The goal here is contentment, being happy with what you have and who you are with. If your mind is constantly hunting for the next thrill, you are never at peace. You are just a slave to biology. Number 4, false speech, lying, but also gossip, harsh words, and idle chatter. We love to talk. We love the drama. But speech is powerful. It shapes reality. When you lie, you have to remember the lie. You have to build a fortress of other lies to protect the first one. It's exhausting. It splits your reality in two. What happened and what you said happened. That tension destroys your peace of mind. And gossip, it's poison. It divides people. The Buddha was very clear. If it isn't true, beneficial, and timely, don't say it. Just shut up. Silence is better than poison. The positive side is truthfulness, Sakka, being a person whose word is iron. There is a massive power in being someone who simply does not lie. Finally, the 5th precept, intoxicants, alcohol and drugs. Why is this here? Maybe you think, I can handle a drink. But here is the thing. This is the gateway. The Buddha called it the root of heedlessness, pamada. When you are drunk or high, your guard is down. You lose your mindfulness. And when mindfulness goes, the other 4 precepts go out the window. You get drunk, so you get in a fight, killing, or you sleep with someone you shouldn't, misconduct, or you run your mouth, false speech. It clouds the mind exactly when you need it to be clear. You are trying to wake up, so why would you voluntarily put your brain to sleep? And this brings us to the mechanics of it all. Why does this work? It's not magic, it's psychology. It's about satana, volition, your intention. Karma isn't some cosmic judge, it's the imprint you leave on your own mind. Every time you hold back an angry impulse, you strengthen a neural pathway of patience. Every time you give in to greed, you dig that trench deeper. You are literally rewiring your brain. You are creating your future self. The Buddha talked about hiri and atapa, shame and fear of wrongdoing. Not a toxic, crushing shame, but a healthy self-respect. A voice that says, I am better than this. These are the guardians of the world. Without them, we are just animals with clothes on. You've got a house you live in, right? A physical address.
But where does your mind live? Where do you go when the world gets quiet? That is what the Buddha called the Brahma-viharas. It translates to the divine abodes, or the sublime dwellings. Brahma means divine. Vihara means home. It is the address of your consciousness. Most of us live in a mental slum. We sleep in anxiety, wake up in irritation, and spend our days hanging out in resentment. The Buddha is telling you to move. You can renovate. You can build a mansion in your head where the only residents are love, compassion, joy, and balance. These aren't just passing emotions. They are places to stay. Why are they called immeasurables? Because we usually ration our kindness. We treat love like it's a limited resource. I have this much love for my family, a little bit less for my friends, and 0 for the guy who cut me off in traffic. That is a measured mind. It's small. Apanamanya means boundless, no boundaries, no range limit. You don't just radiate a Wi-Fi signal of kindness to the people with the password. You broadcast it to the whole planet. The goal here is simple but radical. You are replacing the rot in your mind, the defilements, with these 4 pillars: metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha. Let's start with the first pillar, metta, loving kindness. Now, strip away the hippie associations. This isn't about holding hands and singing songs. It is active goodwill. It is a grit-your-teeth commitment to the welfare of others. It's looking at a stranger and genuinely thinking, I hope you are happy. I hope you are safe. But here is the trap. Every single one of these virtues has a near enemy, a fake version that looks like the real thing, but is actually toxic. For metta, the near enemy is selfish affection. It's sticky love. It's lust. It's loving someone because of what they give you. That's not kindness. That's a transaction. Real metta cures the far enemy, which is hatred. It is the specific antidote to malice. Then you have the second pillar, karuna, compassion. This is what happens when loving kindness meets suffering. It is the quivering of the heart. You don't just see the pain, you feel a distinct wish to remove it. But you have to be careful. The near enemy of compassion is pity. Pity feels nice, doesn't it? But look closer. Pity looks down. Pity says, oh, you poor broken thing. It creates a separation. You are up here, they are down there. That is arrogance dressed up as virtue. True compassion is eye to eye. It is suffering with, not suffering for. You cannot drown with them, or you're useless. You need to feel the pain without being paralyzed by it. That's how you defeat the far enemy, cruelty. Next up is the hardest one, mudita, sympathetic joy. This means taking delight in the success of others. Sounds easy? Try it. Think of your biggest competitor. Think of the person who got the promotion you deserved. Can you smile? Can you feel a spark of genuine joy for them? It burns, doesn't it? That burn is the far enemy, envy. We are wired to compete, to compare. We think happiness is a zero-sum game, that if they win, we lose. Mudita breaks that scarcity mindset. But watch out for the near enemy, hypocrisy. That fake smile you plaster on while you're dying inside. That's not it. You have to actually feel the joy, as if their win was your win. Finally, the stabilizer, upekkha, equanimity. This is the roof that keeps the rain out. It is unshakable balance. Without this, the other 3 fall apart. Love without balance becomes obsession. Compassion without balance becomes depression. Joy without balance becomes agitation. Equanimity is the force that keeps you centered, but people get this wrong all the time. They think equanimity means I don't care. That is the near enemy, indifference, apathy. Whatever, nothing matters.
No. Equanimity cares deeply, but it doesn't cling. It's the difference between watching a storm from inside a sturdy house versus standing outside in the hurricane. You see the storm, you acknowledge the storm, but you aren't blown away by it. So, how do you build this? You don't just snap your fingers. You have to train. The method is systematic. You start with yourself. This is non-negotiable. You cannot pour water from an empty cup. If you hate yourself, your love for others is just a projection of neediness. You sit there and say, "May I be happy. May I be free from suffering." You break the barrier of self-judgment. Then you move to a benefactor, someone easy to love. Then a neutral person, like a clerk at the store. And then comes the boss fight, the enemy, the person who hurt you. This is the ultimate test. You visualize the person who caused you pain, and you really try, to wish them freedom from suffering, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to be free of the poison of hatred. You radiate this out in all 10 directions until there is no us and them anymore. There is just suffering and the wish for it to end. When you practice this, the benefits aren't just some future karmic reward. You sleep better tonight. Your anxiety drops. You become dear to humans and non-humans, as the texts say. People just like being around you because you feel safe. You aren't judging them, you're welcoming them. But the ultimate goal isn't just a better social life. It's samadhi. It's concentration. When your mind isn't fighting a war against reality, it settles down. It becomes sharp. And that is when you can finally see things as they really are. This is one of the most profound psychological breakdowns in all of Buddhist philosophy. It's the concept of the near enemy. See, we usually think the biggest threat to a virtue is its opposite, the far enemy. If you're trying to be loving, you think the danger is hatred. If you're trying to be calm, you think the danger is panic. But that's too obvious. You can spot hatred a mile away. You know it's toxic. You don't invite it in for tea. The real danger isn't the enemy at the gate. It's the spy in the castle. It's the near enemy. This is a state of mind that looks like the virtue. It sounds like the virtue, but it's actually the ego wearing a disguise. And because it feels so close to the real thing, we get tricked. We think we're being spiritual, but we're actually just reinforcing our own separation. Let's look at the first one. Metta, or loving kindness. The far enemy here is ill will or hatred. Easy, right? You know when you hate someone. But the near enemy, that's selfish affection. It's sticky. It's that feeling of, I love you because you make me feel safe, or I love you because you're mine. It masquerades as love, but it's actually attachment. It's hunger. Real metta is unconditional. It says, I want you to be happy, even if it has nothing to do with me. But the near enemy says, I want you to be happy as long as you love me back. It feels warm, so we mistake it for spiritual love. But the moment the other person changes or leaves, that love turns into anger. Why? Because it wasn't love. It was a transaction. Then there is karuna, or compassion. This is the heart quivering in response to pain. The far enemy is cruelty, actually wanting someone to suffer. But watch out for the near enemy. It's pity. This one is so subtle. Pity looks like compassion. You look at someone suffering and you feel bad for them. But pity has a hidden hierarchy. It looks down. It says, oh, you poor thing, I'm so glad I'm not you. It separates you up here from them down there. It feeds the ego's sense of superiority. True compassion puts you on the same level. You feel their pain as your own. You don't stand apart. There's another trap here too, sentimental grief. This is when you get so overwhelmed by someone else's sadness that you drown in it. You become useless. That's not compassion either. That's just emotional vibration.
Next up is mudita, or sympathetic joy. This is being happy that someone else is winning. The far enemy is envy. We all know that sting of jealousy when a coworker gets the promotion you wanted. But the near enemy is trickier. It's exhilaration, or hypocrisy. It's a kind of manic party energy. It's celebrating someone else only because it makes you look good to be around them.
Or maybe you're just addicted to the hype. It's agitation, not peace. True mudita is serene. It's quiet. It's seeing someone succeed and feeling a deep, calm, good for them. The near enemy is loud. It's grabbing onto the moment for a dopamine hit. If you feel exhausted after celebrating someone, you probably fell into the trap of exhilaration. And finally, the big one, the crown jewel, upekkha, or equanimity. This is the mind that cannot be shaken. The far enemy is reacting, craving this, hating that, pushing and pulling. But the near enemy, indifference. This is the most dangerous trap in modern spirituality. People think being Zen means not giving a damn. They confuse letting go with checking out. Indifference is cold. It's a withdrawal. It says, I don't care what happens. That is not equanimity. Equanimity cares deeply. It is fully present, fully alive to the world, but it remains balanced. It's the eye of the storm, not a bunker underground. Indifference is numbness. Equanimity is radiant calm. If you feel cold or distant, that's not wisdom. That's just a defense mechanism. So, how do you tell the difference? How do you know if you're practicing the virtue or just feeding the spy? You have to use the litmus test of feeling. You have to get out of your head and into your body. The near enemies always have a specific texture. They feel tight. They feel sticky, heavy, or draining. Attachment feels anxious. Pity feels heavy. Indifference feels dead. But the true virtues, they feel spacious. They feel boundless. Real love doesn't tire you out. It energizes you. Real compassion doesn't weigh you down. It connects you. So stop looking at the definition in the book. Look at the feeling in your gut. If it feels tight, it's the enemy. If it feels open, you're home. Let's go back to a dusty town called Kesapuda. The people there, the Kalamas, they're exhausted. Not physically, but mentally. See, they live on a highway for spiritual seekers. Every other day, a new wandering ascetic rolls into town. A Brahmin, a yogi, a philosopher, and every single one of them says the exact same thing. My truth is the only truth. Everyone else? They're idiots. They're lying. Then the next guy comes in and says the exact opposite. It's a marketplace of confusion. It's spiritual gaslighting, pure and simple. The Kalamas are paralyzed. They don't know who to trust. It sounds familiar, doesn't it? Scroll through your feed today. One expert says meat, the other says it's poison. One says hustle, the other says rest. The Kalamas are us. So when the Buddha arrives, they don't ask for a sermon. They don't ask for enlightenment. They ask the most honest question you can ask. Sir, who is telling the truth and who is lying? Because we are totally lost. Most religious leaders would seize this moment. They'd say, finally, you asked. I am the one telling the truth. Follow me. But the Buddha doesn't do that. He looks at them and says, it is proper for you to doubt. Let that sink in. He validates their skepticism. He tells them that doubt isn't a sin. It's a sign of intelligence. He says, of course you're uncertain. You should be. And then he drops the charter of free inquiry. He gives them a list of 10 things not to believe in. And this list, it shreds everything we usually cling to. He says, do not rely on oral tradition. just because it's been said for centuries. Do not rely on lineage or what your ancestors did. Do not rely on rumors or common reports. We love rumors, don't we? Everyone says so. Buddha says, toss it. Do not rely on scriptures or religious texts. Yes, he's telling them not to blindly trust the holy books. If it's written down, that doesn't make it true. But he goes deeper.
This is where it gets uncomfortable for the intellectuals. He says, do not rely on logical conjecture. Do not rely on inference or axioms. Do not rely on analogies. We think if it makes sense logically, it must be true. Buddha says no. Logic can be flawed. Your mind can trick you. And then the two biggest ones. Do not rely on a view just because you agree with it. Confirmation bias. He called it out 2,500 years ago. And finally, do not rely on the authority of the teacher. Do not believe just because I am your master. So if you can't trust books, logic, or teachers, what is left? Chaos? No. Experience. Radical empiricism. He shifts the entire conversation from is it true to does it work? He asks the Kalamas, when you know for yourselves, that's the standard. You have to be the scientist of your own life. He gives them 3 tests. Are these things unskillful? Are they blameworthy? And most importantly, when you act on them, do they lead to harm and suffering? He walks them through it. He doesn't lecture, he asks. Kalamas, when greed arises in a person, does it lead to profit or loss? They answer, loss, sir. Does it lead to violence? Yes. Does it cause suffering? Yes. He does the same for hatred, the same for delusion. It's not about sin. It's about mechanics. If you put your hand in fire, it burns. If you act out of hatred, you suffer. It's observable. You don't need a priest to tell you that. You know it because you felt it. So the instruction is simple. If you see that greed, hatred, and delusion cause pain, abandon them. Drop them like a hot coal. And when you do, you aren't just empty. You fill that space. This is where the 4 divine abidings come in. You fill your mind with metta, friendliness towards everything, with karuna, compassion for those hurting, with mudita, joy for those winning, and upekkha, unshakable peace. This isn't just being nice, it's the natural state of a mind that has stopped poisoning itself. But the Buddha knows the human mind craves certainty about the future. What about the afterlife? What about karma? So he offers the 4 solaces. It's a win-win scenario. He says, look, suppose there is an afterlife. If you live a life of love and compassion, you'll wake up in a heavenly state. You win. But here's the twist. Suppose there is no afterlife. Suppose this is it. He says, then you still live happily here and now. You live free from hostility. You sleep well. You win again. People love this sutta. Skeptics love it. Atheists love it. They call it the Buddhist Charter of Free Inquiry. But be careful. It's easy to misunderstand. This isn't believe whatever you want. It's not an excuse for my truth is my truth. It's a rigorous method. And it's not just rationalism. Remember, he said, don't rely on logic alone. Logic can spin circles. This is about practice. It's about putting the teaching to the test in the laboratory of your own body and mind. The only authority that matters is the result. So the lecture you need isn't in a book. It isn't even in these words I'm saying right now. The Buddha is handing the responsibility back to you. He's saying, here is the map, but you have to walk the path. You have to taste the fruit to know if it's sweet. Don't take my word for it. Try it. See if your suffering decreases. That is the only truth that counts. This is the bedrock. If you don't get this, you don't get Buddhism. The term is Pratītyasamutpāda, a massive, scary Sanskrit word that usually scares people off.
but don't let it. Break it down, and it's actually simple. Pratitya means dependent, leaning on something else. Samutpada means arising or coming into being. Put them together and you get dependent origination. Or, if you want the plain English version, interconnectedness.
The core premise is radical. It says that nothing, absolutely nothing, exists on its own. You think you're sitting there, reading this, existing as a solid, independent entity? You aren't. You only exist because of sunlight, water, ancestors, gravity, and the breakfast you ate. Remove one condition, and you vanish. So here is the formula. The Buddha didn't invent this. He discovered it, like gravity. It goes like this. When this is, that is. From the arising of this comes the arising of that. And the reverse. When this isn't, that isn't. It sounds almost too simple to be a profound philosophy, doesn't it? But look closer. It's not a straight line. It's not just A causes B. It's a feedback loop. A causes B, which influences A. It is a web. This is what the Buddha saw on the night of his enlightenment. He wasn't looking for a god or a magic spell. He was acting like a doctor. He saw the symptom, suffering, death, decay, and he worked backward to find the virus. He realized that the mess of being human isn't random. It has a specific architecture. He called this architecture the 12 Nidānas, or links. Think of it as a chain reaction. It starts in the dark. The first link is ignorance, avidya. This isn't stupidity, it's blindness. It's not knowing how reality actually works. Because we are blind, we generate impulses, mental habits, karmic energy. That energy needs somewhere to go, so it sparks consciousness. That spark jumps into a womb, and suddenly you have name and form, a mind and a body. You're becoming a distinct thing. Once you have a body, you develop the 6 sense bases: eyes, ears, skin, the works. You are now an open window to the world. And here is where the trouble starts. You have senses, so you have contact. The world smacks into you. Light hits the eye, sound hits the ear, and instantly, automatically, you have feeling. It's pleasant, it's painful, or it's neutral. This is the pivot point. Because we are ignorant, we react. We feel pleasure, we want more. That is craving. We feel pain, we push it away. That is also craving. We don't just let the feeling pass. We tighten our grip. This turns into clinging. We identify with it. I need this. This is mine. We build our whole identity around these desperate grabs. That clinging fuels becoming. We are constantly trying to be something, to secure our existence. This drive pushes us into birth, not just physical birth, but the birth of egos, identities, and moments. And because anything that is born is subject to time, the final link is inevitable: old age and death, sorrow, lamentation, despair, the whole mass of suffering. It's a machine. We feed ignorance in one end and a corpse comes out the other. It sounds grim, right? But the Buddha saw this as good news. Why? Because a machine can be turned off. If you reverse the formula, the whole structure collapses. From the cessation of this comes the cessation of that. You can't just wish away death. You can't just stop feeling. The weak link in the chain is craving and ignorance. If you feel a sensation but don't crave it, if you just let it be, you break the circuit. No craving means no clinging. No clinging means no becoming. The fuel line is cut. This is the path to Nirvana. It's not a place you go. It's the stopping of the wheel. It's the end of the burning. This changes everything about how we see the self. It shatters the extremes. On one side, you have eternalism, the idea that you have a permanent soul that floats around forever. Dependent origination says no. You are a process, a stream of changing conditions.
On the other side, you have nihilism, the idea that nothing matters and death is a black hole. It says no to that too. Your actions have consequences that ripple forward. So how does rebirth work if there's no soul? Think of a candle lighting another candle. The flame jumps. Is the new flame the same as the old one? No. Is it totally different? No. It's a transfer of energy.
Think of two sheaves of reeds leaning against each other. If you pull one away, the other falls. Subject needs object. Left needs right. You need the world to exist, and in a way, the world needs you to witness it. Or picture Indra's net, a vast cosmic web with a jewel at every junction. Each jewel reflects every other jewel. That is us. We are all mirroring each other, dependent on each other, arising together. There is no solo act. You are not a lonely observer looking at the universe. You are the universe, happening.
We love extremes. It's human nature. We think if a little bit of something is good, a lot of it must be better. And Siddhartha Gautama was no different. He didn't just dip his toes into life, he drowned himself in it. First came the palace. This was the extreme of total sensory overload. Every whim satisfied, every pleasure granted. He had the best food, the best clothes, the most beautiful women. It was a life designed to numb him to reality. But it didn't work. You can't pleasure your way out of the fact that you're going to get sick, you're going to get old, and you're going to die. The four sights shattered that bubble. He realized that a golden cage is still a cage. So he ran. He ran straight to the other side. If pleasure was the trap, he figured pain must be the key. This wasn't just a diet. This was war against his own biology. He entered the forest and embraced the path of self-mortification. He stopped eating. He held his breath until he felt like his head was splitting open. He slept on beds of thorns. The logic was simple. Punish the body to free the soul. Crush the vessel to release the spirit. He did this for years. He became a skeleton with skin, so weak that if he touched his stomach, he could feel his spine. And what did he get for all that suffering? Did he find the ultimate truth? No, he just found himself dying. That's when the memory hit him. He wasn't thinking about scripture or gurus. He remembered a moment from his childhood, sitting under a rose apple tree. He wasn't fasting, he wasn't feasting, he was just sitting, calm, alert, happy. It was natural. And he realized something terrifyingly simple. A starved body cannot support a sharp mind. You can't drive a car with no gas, no matter how much you hate the car. He accepted a bowl of rice milk from a village girl named Sujata. The other ascetics were disgusted. They thought he gave up. They left him. But he wasn't giving up. He was tuning up. Here is the perfect analogy for this, and it comes from the Buddha himself later on. Think about a lute or a guitar. What happens if you wind the string too tight? You try to play it and snap. It breaks. It's useless. But what if the string is too loose? You strum it and you get nothing but a dull, floppy noise. There's no music. The music only happens in the middle. Not too tight, not too loose. This is the middle way. And don't get it twisted. This isn't about being average. It's not about doing a mediocre job at life. It's about precision. It is the specific tension required to produce the note of enlightenment. So, the middle way isn't a compromise. It's a strategy. It's a lifestyle built for sustainability. If you are obsessed with luxury, you are a slave to your cravings. If you are obsessed with poverty and pain, you are a slave to your hatred of the body. Both are distractions.
Both keep you focused on the self. The middle way is the path that lets you forget the body so you can actually work on the mind. And that work is the Noble Eightfold Path. That's the roadmap. It's how you actually do the middle way. You balance your wisdom, your behavior, and your mental discipline. It's a system where every part supports the other, keeping that string perfectly tuned. But there is a deeper layer here. If you want to really understand the Buddha, you have to look at the philosophy. The middle way isn't just about how much you eat or sleep, it's about how you view reality. In his time, there were two main camps. The eternalists said, you have a permanent soul, an Atman, that lasts forever. The nihilists said, no, when you die, the lights go out and nothing matters. Buddha looked at both and said, you're both wrong. This is the intellectual middle way. He rejected eternalism because nothing in this universe is permanent. Everything changes. But he rejected nihilism because your actions do matter. Causes have effects. The flame of a candle changes every second, but the flame is still burning. You aren't the same person you were 10 years ago, but you aren't a totally different person either. You are a process. That is the truth in the middle. Dependent origination. Things arise because conditions are right, and they cease when conditions end. No permanent soul, but no total annihilation either. Just a stream. And once you see yourself as a stream instead of a rock, you stop fighting the current. That is the middle way. This is the path of the hero, not the kind you see in movies with capes and superpowers, but the spiritual hero, the bodhisattva. See, there are two ways to play this game. You can be the arhat, the one who swims frantically to the shore of safety, saving yourself from the drowning waters of suffering. That's noble. But the bodhisattva? They get to the shore, look back at the chaos, and dive right back in. They refuse to rest until everyone else is safe. That is heroic. That is a level of courage that requires something more than just good intentions. It requires the Paramitas. The word literally means crossing to the other shore. It's the raft that takes you from this messy, confused existence of samsara over to the clarity of nirvana. But it's not a free ride. You have to row. The first oar you pull is dana, the perfection of generosity. But don't get this twisted. It's not just about writing a check to charity or giving a homeless guy a sandwich. It's about breaking the fist. You know that tightness in your chest? That clinging to mine? Dana smashes that. It's the antidote to attachment. Sure, give money, give food. That's material giving. But what about giving fearlessness? Standing between someone and their terror. That's generosity. What about giving the truth? Sharing what you know? That's the highest gift. And here's the kicker. You have to do it without the ego trip. If you think, I am such a good person for giving this to you, you just ruined it. That's a transaction, not a perfection. Clean the slate. Just give. But you can't just be generous and reckless. You need sila, moral discipline. Now, people hear discipline and think of prison or strict rules. Stop that. Sila isn't a cop in your head telling you you're bad. It's a cooling system. Think of your mind like a fire, constantly burning with greed and anger. Sila cools it down. It's restraint. You stop killing, stealing, lying. Not because a god said so, but because you understand cause and effect. You understand that hurting others eventually hurts you. It's active virtue. It's altruism. You are creating a container where your mind can actually settle down. You can't meditate if you're busy covering up your lies or feeling guilty about who you hurt. Discipline clears the debris so you can walk the path. Then comes the hard part. The world is going to punch you in the face.
People will insult you. Life will get difficult. This is where you need kshanti, the perfection of patience. This is the bodhisattva's armor. It's the only thing that protects you from hatred. And I'm not talking about gritting your teeth patience, where you seethe on the inside. I mean, a patience so deep that aggression slides right off you. Patience with insults. Patience with the sheer suffering of life. The illness, the loss. And the hardest one? Patience with the truth. Because the truth, that you aren't permanent, that you are empty, is terrifying. It takes guts to sit with that without running away. That is the armor of a hero. But you're gonna get tired. The path is long. You'll want to quit. That's why you need virya, joyful effort. This is the fuel. Laziness is the enemy here. But it's not just sleeping on the couch. Being busy is a form of laziness. Distraction is laziness. It's avoiding the real work. Virya isn't burnout. It isn't grinding until you collapse. It's the energy of a child playing a game they love. They don't want to stop. That's how you have to feel about your own awakening. It's enthusiastic perseverance. You generate the good, you maintain the good, and you burn up the bad. Without this energy, talent means nothing. You'll just be a smart person who never went anywhere.
All this energy needs a lens, though. You can have a powerful light, but if it's scattered, it won't burn through anything. You need a laser. You need dhyana, meditative concentration. You have to tame the monkey mind. You know the one, swinging from the past to the future, screaming about dinner or anxieties.
Dhyana is grabbing that monkey and sitting it down. It is single-pointed focus, calm abiding. When you have this, the 5 hindrances, lust, hate, doubt, restlessness, dullness, they fade into the background. It's the bridge. You cannot cross to wisdom with a scattered mind. You need the stability of a mountain. And finally, the captain of the ship, prajna, the perfection of wisdom. Without this, the other 5 are just nice deeds. They aren't perfections. Wisdom is the eye that sees the path. It's the realization of sunyata, or emptiness. This is the big one. It's seeing that nothing has a solid, separate self-nature. Not you, not the tree, not your pain. It's understanding the double truth, that yes, on one level, I am talking to you, but on the ultimate level, there is no I and no you. This cuts the root of ignorance. It severs the delusion that creates all your suffering. It's the sword that sets you free. Let's talk about the Tripitaka. You might know it as the Pali Canon, but the literal translation is actually the 3 baskets. Why baskets? It's a strange image for a holy book. But think about a construction site in ancient India. Workers passing earth from one person to another, hand to hand, down the line. That's the metaphor. This wasn't a book sitting on a dusty shelf. It was a tradition passed from teacher to student, mind to mind for hundreds of years. It's the closest we can get to the actual Buddha Vachana, the word of the Buddha himself. And for a long time, none of this was written down, not a single word. It was all oral, entire libraries stored in the neurons of monks. They didn't read these teachings, they chanted them, communally. Groups of monks called banakas would specialize in different sections, chanting together to lock in the rhythm and prevent errors. If one person forgot a word, the group carried the tune. This went on for centuries. But what's actually in these baskets? The first one is the Vinaya Pitaka, the basket of discipline. This is the rule book, but don't think of it as the 10 Commandments, carved in stone before anyone did anything wrong. The Buddha didn't start with a rule book. He was practical. He was reactive. The rules evolved because people are messy.
A monk would do something stupid or selfish. The community would complain, and the Buddha would say, "Okay, from now on, we don't do that." It was case law.
The Vinaya was about keeping the Sangha, the community, from falling apart. It managed the delicate relationship between the monks and the lay people who fed them. If the monks acted like jerks, the lay people wouldn't offer food, and the religion would starve. At the core of this basket is the Patimaka. These are the 227 rules for monks and 311 for nuns. It covers everything from major offenses that get you kicked out to the tiny details of daily life. How to wear your robes, how to eat, how to settle an argument. It's not just about suppressing bad behavior, it's about creating an environment where spiritual growth is actually possible. You can't meditate if the monastery is a chaotic free-for-all.
Then we have the big one, the Sutta Pitaka, the basket of discourses. This is the heart of the doctrine, the sermons. Almost every distinct teaching starts with the same phrase, Evam me suttam, thus have I heard. That's the voice of Ananda, the Buddha's cousin and personal attendant. He had a photographic memory. After the Buddha died, Ananda recited these thousands of sutras. He was saying, "I'm not making this up, I was there." And the organization here is brilliant. They didn't sort them by date or topic, but by length. You've got the Digha Nikaya, the long discourses, which are full of deep philosophy and debates. Then the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle-length ones, which are punchy and practical. The Samyutta Nikaya groups things by topic, like everything about suffering or the elements in one place. And the Anguttara Nikaya is numerical, the one things, the two things. It's a mnemonic device to help people remember. And finally, the Khuddaka Nikaya, the miscellaneous collection. This holds the stuff you probably know, like the Dhammapada and the Jataka tales, those stories of the Buddha's past lives.
The third basket is the tough one, the Abhidhamma Pitaka, the basket of higher teachings. If the suttas are the lectures, the Abhidhamma is the raw data. In the suttas, the Buddha talks to people. He says, I, you, chariot, tree, conventional language. But the Abhidhamma strips all that away. It deconstructs reality into dhammas, the smallest constituent parts of existence. No stories, no metaphors, just lists, matrices, and mind-bending classifications of consciousness and matter. It's highly analytical, almost like ancient psychology or quantum physics.
So how did this all survive? It goes back to the first council at Rajgir, right after the Buddha died. 500 enlightened monks gathered to standardize everything, so the teachings wouldn't dissolve into hearsay. Upali recited the rules. Ananda recited the sermons. But it stayed oral for another 400 years. It wasn't written down until the 1st century BCE in Sri Lanka. Why then? Famine and war. Monks were dying. The living libraries were starving to death. They realized if they didn't write it down on palm leaves at the Aluvihara temple, the Dhamma would vanish forever. That desperation is the only reason we have these texts today.
Life hurts. That isn't pessimism. That is just the deal. You get sick, you lose money, people leave, your back aches. It is unavoidable. The Buddha talked about this in the Salatha Sutta. He asked a simple, cutting question to his monks. When life punches you in the gut, is there a difference between how a wise person feels it and how a fool feels it? You might think the wise person is numb, like a statue, totally unbothered. But no, the Buddha said even the enlightened feel the hit. The difference isn't in the impact. It is in what happens next. It is in the reaction. He called this the first arrow. This is the raw physical reality. You stub your toe. That's the first arrow. You get fired. First arrow. A relationship ends. First arrow.
It is the event itself. And here is the hard truth you need to swallow. You cannot stop the first arrow. No amount of money, positive thinking, or spiritual chanting stops gravity from pulling you down, or time from aging your cells. It is the tax you pay for having a body. It is pure sensation, sharp, dull, throbbing. It just is. But that isn't what breaks us. That isn't what keeps us up at night. What breaks us is what we do immediately after. We get hit and then we panic. We get angry, we scream, "Why me? This isn't fair. I don't deserve this." We obsess over the pain. We replay the insult. We worry it will never end. The Buddha said this is the second arrow. And the tragedy? We shoot this one at ourselves. The first arrow is tragedy. The second arrow is a choice. It is the mental resistance. It is the story you tell yourself about the pain. And the second arrow? It hurts way more than the first one ever could. It turns a moment of pain into a lifetime of misery. It creates a feedback loop. You worry about the headache, so your neck tightens, and the headache gets worse. Now you are anxious about the anxiety. It spirals. The Buddha saw this deep psychological glitch. When we feel pain, our default setting is repulsion. We hate it. We want it gone, right now. So what do? We run. We distract ourselves. We doom scroll, we drink, we binge watch TV. Not because we love those things, but because we are desperate to escape the sensation of the first arrow. We use pleasure as anesthesia. This is a trap. The Buddha called it being doubly bound. You are a slave to the pain because you fear it, and you are a slave to the pleasure because you need it to hide. You are running on a hamster wheel, terrified of the dark. But the instructed disciple, the one who actually gets it, they do something radical. They just feel it. They don't launch the second arrow. They don't add the narrative. They strip the experience down to its raw data. They stop fighting reality. It is a shift from "I am suffering" to "there is a sensation of pain occurring." It sounds subtle, but it changes everything. It is the difference between drowning in a river and watching the river flow from the bank. You aren't identifying with it. You aren't taking it personally. Pain isn't a personal failing. It is just weather. It passes through. You watch it rise, you watch it peak, and you watch it fade. You don't clench your teeth and fight it. You just let it be there. You accept the first arrow, so you never have to pick up the bow for the second. You cannot make pain zero. That variable is fixed. But resistance, that is all you. If you can drive your resistance down to zero, the suffering disappears. The pain remains, sure. It is uncomfortable, but it isn't suffering. So next time the world hits you, catch yourself. Feel the impact. Acknowledge it, but drop the bow. Do not shoot the second arrow. Pain is mandatory. Suffering is optional. We start at the Jetavana Monastery. It's supposed to be a place of peace, right? But for one monk, it's a living hell. Meet Venerable Malunkyaputta. He's not sitting in blissful meditation. He's not watching his breath. He's pacing. He's agitated. He's in the middle of a full-blown crisis of faith. He's been on a solitary retreat trying to find some peace, but his mind won't shut up. And it's not just the usual distractions. It's the big stuff, the metaphysical heavyweights. He's obsessed with what the Buddha hasn't talked about, the undeclared questions. He's running these loops in his head. Is the world eternal, or will it end? Is the universe finite, or does it go on forever? Is the soul the same thing as the body, or is it something else? Does an enlightened being exist after death,
or do they just vanish? These aren't small questions. They're the questions we all ask at 3 a.m. when we can't sleep. Malunkyaputta feels cheated. He feels like he's wasting his life following a teacher who won't answer the most fundamental questions of existence. So he snaps. He decides he's done. He makes a plan. He's going to confront the Buddha. He thinks, I'm going to demand answers. And if he doesn't give me a straight yes or no, I'm leaving. I'll disrobe. I'll go back to being a normal person. It's an ultimatum, a spiritual hostage situation.
So he marches up to the Buddha, sits down, and unloads. He lists every single unanswered question. He says, if you know the answer, tell me. If you don't know, just admit it. Be honest. It's bold. It's aggressive. It's the intellect screaming for certainty.
The Buddha just looks at him. He's not angry. He's not intimidated. He asks a very simple, cutting question. Malunkyaputta, did I ever say to you, come, live the holy life with me, and I will declare to you whether the world is eternal or not? Malunkyaputta pauses. He has to admit it. No, Lord. The Buddha presses on. Did you ever say to me, I will live the holy life with you only if you answer these questions? Again, no, Lord. There was no contract. The spiritual path wasn't a transaction where you trade obedience for cosmic secrets. And here is where the Buddha drops the hammer. He tells him a story, a parable. It's one of the most famous images in all of Buddhism because it is so violent and so accurate. He says, imagine a man walking along, minding his own business. Suddenly, thwack, he's struck by a poisoned arrow. Thick, heavy, smeared with something deadly. He falls. He's bleeding out. His friends and relatives panic. They rush him to a surgeon. The doctor is ready. He has the scalpel. He's about to pull the arrow out and save the man's life. But the man puts up a hand. He stops the surgeon. He says, no, do not pull this arrow out. He's gasping for air. The poison is already in his blood, but he refuses treatment. He says, I won't let you touch me until I know who shot me. Think about the absurdity of that. He wants details. What was his name? Which clan does he belong to? Was he tall? Was he short? Was his skin dark or fair? He's dying, and he wants a police sketch. He doesn't stop there. He asks, where did he come from? Which village? Which town? Then he gets technical. What kind of bow was it? Was it a long bow or a crossbow? Was the string made of fiber, reed, sinew, or hemp? He's lying in the dirt, life fading, asking about the tensile strength of the weapon. And the arrow, he gasps. Was the shaft wild or cultivated? The feathers, were they from a vulture, a heron, a hawk, or a peacock? Here is the tragedy. The Buddha looks at Malunkyaputta and says, that man will die without ever knowing any of those things. The poison doesn't wait for your curiosity. The arrow doesn't care if you understand the ballistics. The man dies because he prioritized information over survival. He thought the answers would save him, but the questions were just a distraction from the wound. This is us. Malunkyaputta isn't some ancient fool. He is every single one of us. The wounded man is you. The arrow is real. It's dukkha. It's suffering. It's the anxiety in your chest, the grief of loss, the constant itching craving for things to be different than they are. We are all struck. We are all bleeding out. The poison is ignorance. It's festering. Every moment we spend lost in speculation, the poison spreads. And the surgeon? That's the Buddha. The treatment? That's the Dharma. It's the surgery to remove the arrow. But what do? We act just like the dying man. We sit in coffee shops or philosophy classes or scroll through Reddit, debating the age of the universe. We argue about whether God exists. We debate the mechanics of karma or what happens in the afterlife. We think, if I just understand the theory of everything, then I'll be happy. But the Buddha is a pragmatist. He's not a philosopher, he's a doctor. He's telling Malankya-Putta that whether the world is eternal or not, there is still birth, there is still aging, there is still death, there is still sorrow, lamentation, pain, and despair. Knowing the geometry of the cosmos does not stop you from grieving when your mother dies. It doesn't stop the panic attack. It doesn't remove the arrow. So the Buddha draws a line in the sand. He tells us what he does declare. He doesn't declare the age of the world. He declares, this is suffering. This is the origin of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering. And this is the path leading to the cessation of suffering. That's it. That is the only thing that matters, because that is the only thing that pulls the arrow out. The goal isn't to be the smartest person in the graveyard. The goal is Nibbana, unbinding, freedom from the burn. Malankya-Putta hears this, and the anger vanishes. The intellectual frustration evaporates. He realizes he's been studying the bow while the poison was killing him. He understands that the undeclared questions are undeclared for a reason. They are useless. They don't lead to peace. They don't lead to waking up. He resolves to stop asking the wrong questions and finally, actually practice. He decides to let the surgeon do his work. So, before we even touch the raft, we have to look at why the Buddha brought it up in the first place. He didn't just drop this story out of nowhere. He was responding to a monk named Aritha. Now, Aritha was a guy who got it twisted. He started telling everyone that the things the Buddha called obstructions, like sense pleasures, weren't really that bad if you indulged in them. He completely missed the point, and this terrified the Buddha. Not because Aritha was breaking a rule, but because he was holding the teaching wrong, and holding it wrong is worse than not holding it at all. To explain this danger, the Buddha used an image that's honestly kind of terrifying. He talked about a water snake. He said, look, if you grab a snake by its tail because you're careless or you don't know what you're doing, that snake is going to swing back and bite you. And that bite will kill you. The teaching is the same way. The Dharma is powerful stuff. If you grasp it wrongly, to win arguments, to boost your ego, or to justify your bad behavior like Aritha, it will turn around and bite you. It leads to more suffering, not less. That's the setup. You have to understand the function of the tool before you pick it up. So to make sure we really get it, the Buddha tells a story. He describes a man on a journey, and this man comes to a massive stretch of water, a flood. The side he is standing on, the hither shore, is dangerous. It's full of predators, it's terrifying, and it's insecure. But he looks across the water and sees the further shore. That side is safe. It's peaceful. It's free from fear. The problem is, there's no bridge. There's no ferry boat waiting to take him across. He is completely on his own. The man realizes he can't swim this current. It's too strong. So he has to get to work. He starts scavenging. He picks up grass, sticks, branches, and foliage from the dangerous shore. He ties them together. He binds them tight. He builds a raft. This is a crucial detail. The raft isn't given to him. He has to build it out of the mess around him. And then he pushes off. It's not a luxury cruise. He's kicking with his feet, paddling with his hands, striving against the current. It takes everything he has, but eventually he makes it. He hits the sand on the safe shore. Now, here is where the absurdity kicks in. The man stands on the safe shore. He looks back at the raft, this pile of wet sticks and leaves, and he feels a surge of gratitude. He thinks, "This raft was amazing. It saved my life. I couldn't have crossed without it." That's a true statement. But then he goes a step further. He says to himself, "I can't just leave it here. I'm going to lift this raft onto my head, or strap it to my back, and I'm going to carry it with me wherever I go." And he starts walking inland, lugging this heavy, waterlogged wooden structure on his back. The Buddha pauses here. He looks at the monks and asks a simple question. Is this man doing what should be done with the raft? Obviously, the answer is no. It sounds insane. Why would you carry a boat across dry land? It slows you down, it breaks your back, it serves no purpose anymore. The Buddha says the correct thing to do is to drag it up on the beach or just let it float away. You say thank you to the raft, and then you walk away. You are free. The raft was for crossing, not for holding on to. This is the code we need to break. The raft is the Dharma. It is the teaching itself. The precepts, the meditation techniques, the philosophy, all of it. The dangerous shore he left behind? That's samsara. That's the cycle of anxiety and suffering we live in every day. The flood is the torrent of our cravings and our wrong views. And that safe shore? That's nirvana. That is liberation. But the most interesting part is the construction. You have to build the path yourself. The Eightfold path isn't a magic carpet. It's something you assemble through effort. But the core philosophy here is what shatters most people's religious views. It's the concept of upaya, or skillful means. The teachings are functional. They are pragmatic. They are medicine for an illness, not a trophy to put on a shelf. If you don't have the illness, you don't keep taking the medicine. If you become attached to being a Buddhist, or if you obsess over the theoretical purity of the text just to sound smart at parties, you are that guy carrying the raft on his head. You have turned the tool for freedom into a burden of dogma. You're just carrying dead weight. The Buddha drops a line here that is absolutely radical. He says, you should abandon even good states. How much more so bad states? We get that we should let go of anger and greed, but letting go of the good? Letting go of the Dharma itself? Yes, because ultimately, even the teaching is a construct. It is a concept. And to be truly free, you cannot be bound by concepts. You cannot be stuck holding on to anything. Freedom means having empty hands. You don't worship the boat. You care about the destination. But, and this is a massive but, there is a trap here. I see people fall into it all the time. They hear this story and think, oh cool, I don't need the rules. I don't need the meditation. I can just let go of the raft right now. No, you can't let go of the raft while you are still in the middle of the river. If you do that, you drown. You die. You only let go after you have crossed. Until you are standing on the solid ground of liberation, you hold on to that raft for dear life. You use the rules. You use the discipline. You strive with hands and feet. You honor the raft. You just don't make the mistake of thinking the raft is the goal. We have to start with who she was before the tragedy. Her name was Kisa Gautami. Kisa wasn't a compliment. It meant frail, skinny. She was a woman from a poverty-stricken family in Savatthi. And let's be honest, in that time and place, that made her invisible. She was a nobody. When she married, her life didn't turn into a fairy tale. It got worse. Her husband's family treated her with absolute disdain. She was the poor, skinny girl who brought nothing to the table. She was isolated, scorned, and lonely. But then everything changed. She gave birth to a son. In an instant, her status flipped. She wasn't just skinny Gautami anymore. She was a mother. She finally had respect. She finally had happiness.
The child wasn't just a baby to her. He was her redemption. He was the proof that she mattered. So when you understand that, you understand why what happened next destroyed her so completely. She didn't just love that boy. Her entire existence was wrapped up in his little life.
And then, just as he started running about, just as he was becoming a real person, he died. A sudden sickness, a snake bite, it doesn't matter how. He was gone. The shock was too much for Gautami's mind to handle. She snapped. She refused to accept reality. She couldn't. If he was dead, she was dead. So she didn't cremate him. She didn't let him go. Instead, she picked up the cold, stiff body, strapped him to her hip, and went out into the streets. It's a heart-wrenching image. A mother going door to door, begging her neighbors for medicine to wake him up. "My boy is sick," she'd say. "Please, give me something to make him well." You can imagine the reaction. Some people laughed at her, thinking she was a fool. Others recoiled in horror. But most just looked at her with that heavy, suffocating pity. They thought she had lost her mind. And in a way, she had. Grief is a kind of madness, isn't it? It denies the very laws of nature. Finally, a man saw her. He didn't mock her. He saw the desperation in her eyes and realized she didn't need a doctor. She needed a wake-up call. But he was kind about it. He told her, "I cannot cure your son, but I know someone who can. Go to the physician, the Buddha." Hope surged through her. She ran to the Jada Grove, right into the middle of the assembly, carrying the dead child. She laid him at the Buddha's feet and cried out, "Lord, give me the medicine that will cure my boy." Now, watch what the Buddha does here. He doesn't lecture her on the impermanence of life. He doesn't tell her to move on. That would be true, but it would be cruel. Instead, he meets her right where she is. He looks at her with total compassion and says, "I can help you, but to make the medicine, I need a specific ingredient." Gautami is listening, desperate. "I need a handful of mustard seeds." Mustard seeds? That's it? She's ecstatic. Mustard seeds are in every kitchen in India. It's the most common spice in the world. But then comes the condition, the hook. The Buddha says you must get these seeds from a house where no child, no spouse, no parent, and no servant has died. Kisa Gautami doesn't think about the riddle. She just hears go. She thinks the task is easy. She runs to the first house in the village, breathless. "Do you have mustard seeds?" she asks. The villagers say, "Of course." They bring them out. She's about to take them, about to save her son, when she remembers the condition. "Has anyone died in this family?" she asks. The mood in the doorway shifts instantly. The smiles fade. They look at her like she's asked the most absurd question in the world. "What are you saying?" they reply. "The living are few, but the dead are many." She can't take the seeds. She goes to the next house, and the next. "Mustard seeds?" "Yes." "Has anyone died?" "Yes." A father, a daughter, a grandfather. It didn't matter if the house was a palace or a shack. Death had visited them all. She walked all day, house after house, story after story, and slowly something shifted. The frantic energy began to drain out of her. The weight of the child on her hip felt different. She started listening to the grief of others. She realized she wasn't the only one suffering. Her pain wasn't a punishment targeting her specifically. It was the one thing she shared with every single person she met. The delusion began to crack. She wasn't seeking a cure for her son anymore. She was learning the truth about life. By evening, she reached the edge of the city. She sat down and watched the village lights. They would flicker up, burn for a while, and then extinguish. Up and down, on and off, just like us.
She realized that life is like a flame. It arises, it burns, and it passes away. That is the law. She looked at her son, really looked at him, and for the first time she accepted he was gone. She took him to the charnel ground, laid him to rest, and said goodbye. She returned to the Buddha empty-handed, but her mind was cured. The Buddha saw her approaching. He asked, "Did you get the mustard seed, Kisa?" She shook her head, but she wasn't crying. "Done, Lord," she said. "The business of the mustard seed is done. Only give me a refuge." She didn't want the magic trick anymore. She wanted the truth. And so the Buddha gave her the sermon she was finally ready to hear. He told her that death is a universal law. He compared it to a great flood sweeping through a sleeping village in the night. It takes everything. It doesn't bargain. It doesn't care if you are rich or poor, sinly or respected. We build our little lives. We cling to our families and our possessions, thinking they are solid. But they aren't. They are temporary. And it is that attachment, that desperate clinging to things that must change, that causes our suffering. Kisa Gautami got it. She didn't just understand it intellectually, she felt it in her bones. She asked to join the Sangha, the order of nuns. She shaved her head, put on the robes, and became Bhikkhuni Kisa Gautami. But the story doesn't end there. She didn't just become a nun, she became a master. She was known for wearing the coarsest, roughest robes, a symbol of her total detachment from worldly status. One night, years later, she was staring at a lamp again, watching the flames sputter and die. And in that simple observation, the final tether snapped. The skinny girl who was scorned, the grieving mother who went mad, attained full enlightenment. She became an arhat. She found the ultimate peace, all because she went looking for a mustard seed and found the nature of reality instead. He was 80 years old. Look at the reality of that. He described his own body as an old cart, held together only by straps and leather thongs. The physical form was failing. At the Kapala shrine, he sits down and makes the call. It wasn't a vague feeling, it was a deliberate decision. He enters a deep meditative state and relinquishes the will to live. He puts a timestamp on it. 3 months. That's it. And here comes the tragedy of Ananda. The texts say Mara, the Lord of Illusion, was there, reminding the Buddha, "You promised you'd leave once the work was done." Well, it's done. And Ananda? He stood right there. But Ananda missed the cue. It said that if Ananda had just asked him to stay, the Buddha would have remained for an eon, but he didn't ask. He was silent. A moment of human error that changed history. The earth shook, literally trembled when the decision was made. The Buddha turned to Ananda and dropped the hammer. "I have cast off the sum of life." The countdown had started. It forces you to look at the fragility of opportunities. How often do we miss the moment to ask for what we need? Ananda wept later, but the deal was sealed. Nature had signed off on the departure. So they walk. They move toward the end. And in these final miles, the Buddha gives a teaching that destroys the need for a guru. He saw the panic in their eyes. Who will lead us? Who is the successor? He looked at them and said, "Be a lamp unto yourselves. Don't look for a leader. Don't look for a savior. Rely on the Dharma. Rely on the truth you've already seen." He wasn't building a hierarchy. He was trying to make them independent. He gave them the mirror of Dharma, a method to check their own progress so they wouldn't need validation from anyone else. He was cutting the cord. Then comes Pava, the last meal. This is where the story gets gritty.
No glowing lights, just a blacksmith named Kunda offering a meal. Sukara Madhava. Scholars have been fighting over this word for centuries. Was it soft pork? Was it truffles? Was it a medicinal mushroom meant to cure him? It doesn't matter. It was poison to his old system. He fell violently ill. Dysentery, severe pain, blood. This is the raw truth we usually gloss over. The most enlightened being in history didn't float away on a cloud. He died with a stomach infection, walking through the dust in agony.
But watch what he does with that pain. He knows Kunda is going to be blamed. He knows people will hate this blacksmith for killing the Buddha. So, gasping for breath, he stops Ananda. He tells him to go to Kunda. Tell him that this meal was meritorious. Tell him it's equal to the meal I ate before I became enlightened. He exonerated the man who accidentally poisoned him. That is the standard of compassion. Even while his body was destroying itself from the inside out, he was worried about the mental state of a village blacksmith.
They arrive at Kushinagar. It's a small mud wattle town, not a grand capital, just a quiet grove of sal trees. And the trees go crazy. They burst into bloom out of season, raining flowers down on him. He lies down in the lion's posture, right side, one foot on the other, totally lucid. And the gods start gathering. The texts say the sky was crowded with them, weeping, tearing their hair out. But look at Ananda. He's leaning against a doorpost, crying his eyes out. I am still a learner, he sobs, and my teacher is leaving.
The Buddha calls him over. He doesn't offer false hope. He says, "Enough, Ananda, do not grieve. Have I not taught you that all things we love must change?" He praises Ananda for decades of service. He validates him. And then he gives instructions for his own funeral. Treat the body like a universal monarch. Cremate it. Build stupas. He marks out the 4 pilgrimage sites: birth, enlightenment, first sermon, death. He wasn't doing this for his ego. He was setting up a structure for future generations to find inspiration. He even told them they could abolish the minor rules. But, and this is classic bureaucracy, he forgot to say which rules were minor. So the monks, terrified of getting it wrong, kept them all. Then the final interruption. A wanderer named Subhada shows up. Ananda tries to block him. "Stop, friend, don't bother the master. He is tired." But the Buddha hears the argument. Even on his deathbed, literally minutes from the end, the teacher is still on. He calls Subhada in. He answers his questions about other ascetics and the Eightfold Path. Subhada becomes the last disciple ordained by the Buddha in person. The work didn't stop until the breath stopped.
And then the Parinirvana, the great passing. He asked the monks one last time, "Do you have any doubts? Ask now, so you don't regret it later." Silence. Everyone was clear. So he spoke his final words. Not a poem, not a riddle, a command. All conditioned things are subject to decay. Strive on with diligence. That's it. Everything falls apart. So you better work hard.
He didn't just close his eyes. He entered the jhanas. He climbed the ladder of meditative absorption, step by step, all the way to the cessation of perception, and then back down, and then back up to the 4th jhana. It was a controlled exit. He didn't die. He dismantled the house brick by brick, and then he was gone. The earth shuddered. Thunder rolled. Brahma and Indra recited verses about impermanence. But down on the ground, the fire wouldn't start. They couldn't light the funeral pyre. They had to wait for Mahakassapa, the great austere disciple, to arrive. Only when he bowed at the Buddha's feet did the pyre catch fire spontaneously. The body burned away.
No ash meant for the skin remained, just the relics, bones that looked like pearls.
And here is the supreme irony. The man who spent 45 years preaching peace and nonviolence leaves the world. And what happens? War. Almost immediately. 8 kings and clans, including the intense Ajatashatru, showed up with armies. They surrounded the city. We want the relics. They were ready to slaughter each other over the charred bones of the man who taught them not to kill. It's a dark comedy of human nature.
It took a Brahmin named Drona to talk them off the ledge. He stood up and shamed them. "Our Lord's teaching was forbearance," he shouted. "It is unseemly that over the remains of the best of men there should be strife." He managed to calm the bloodlust. He divided the relics into 8 equal parts. The kings took their pots of bone and ash and rode home to build the 10 original stupas. The teacher was gone. The relics were sealed in stone, but the Dhamma, the truth he pointed to, was now the only thing left standing. It started with 5. Just 5 guys in a deer park in Sarnath. That's it. It wasn't a stadium and there wasn't a microphone. The Buddha finds the 5 ascetics who had abandoned him earlier, and he turns the wheel of the law. And the recruitment process? It was laughably simple. No forms to sign, no background checks, just 2 words. Ehi bhikkhu. Come monk. That was the formula. And it worked. The group exploded from 5 to 60 fully enlightened arhats in no time. But then the Buddha did something that separates a movement from a cult. He didn't keep them close. He didn't build an inner circle to stroke his ego. He looked at these 60 men and gave them the Great Commission. He told them to scatter. Go forth for the good of the many, for the happiness of the many. And here was the kicker. No 2 monks were allowed to take the same road. Think about the confidence that takes. He sent them out alone, into the wild, into the villages, without a handler. This wasn't about consolidating power. It was about distributing it. He was planting seeds in every direction, ensuring the Dhamma wasn't tied to one location or one man. This was the birth of the missionary spirit, but not to convert people to a tribe, to wake them up. But as the numbers grew, they ran into a wall, the caste system. Ancient India was rigid. If you were born a Brahmin, you were a god on earth. If you were an outcast, you were trash. The Buddha looked at this structure and dismantled it with a single metaphor, the ocean. He said, look at the rivers, the Ganges, the Yamuna. When they flow separately, they have names, they have identities. But the moment they hit the ocean, the names are gone. They are just water. That is the Sangha. He said, I don't care who your father was. When you step into this order, your lineage dies, your status dies, only your conduct remains. This wasn't just pretty talk. He proved it. There's this incredible story about Upali. Upali was a barber, low caste. He worked for the Sakyan princes, the Buddha's own royal cousins. When these arrogant princes decided to become monks, Upali went with them. But the princes delayed, hesitating at the threshold. Upali didn't. He got ordained first. And according to the rules of the Sangha, seniority is everything. So when the princes finally shaved their heads and put on the robes, they had to walk into the assembly and bow down to Upali. Imagine that scene. Royals touching the feet of their former servant. That wasn't just a religious ritual. It was a social earthquake. Then came the hardest hurdle, women. Now, we have to look at this with honest eyes. The Buddha hesitated. When his stepmother, Mahapajapati, asked to join, he said no, 3 times. Why? Was it sexism? Maybe. Or maybe it was pragmatism.
He was trying to keep a radical movement alive in a society that viewed independent women as dangerous. He feared the public backlash would destroy the Sangha before it even started. But this is where the story gets human. He didn't have a monopoly on wisdom. He listened. Ananda, his cousin and attendant, stepped in and pushed back. Ananda asked a simple, cutting question. Is a woman capable of enlightenment? Can she become an arhat? The Buddha had to answer truthfully, yes, she can. That settled it. If the goal is liberation, biology is irrelevant. He opened the doors. He established the Bhikkhuni Sangha. Sure, he added the 8 Garudamas, extra rules to keep the nuns subordinate to monks, which feels outdated now.
But context is everything. In that era, creating a formal religious institution for women was unheard of. It gave women a path to dignity outside of marriage and motherhood. It was imperfect, but it was revolutionary. So you have thousands of people now, men, women, kings, beggars. How do you manage that without it turning into chaos? The Buddha refused to be a king. He refused to appoint a successor. He said the Dhamma and the Vinaya, the rules, will be your teacher when I am gone. He built a system of laws, not men. It was radically democratic. When they had to make a decision, they held a meeting called Uposatha. A motion was recited 3 times. If you stayed silent, you agreed. If you disagreed, you spoke up. Consensus, not tyranny. And the rules, the Vinaya, weren't written in a single afternoon. They were reactive. The Buddha didn't just sit down and write a constitution. He waited for someone to mess up. A monk would do something stupid, and the Buddha would say, "Okay, new rule, don't do that." It was case law. But there were 4 deal breakers, the parajikas: defeats, theft, murder, and lying about your spiritual powers. Do any of these, and you're out. Instant expulsion. The rest? It was the middle way. You aren't starving yourself, but you aren't sleeping on gold either.
But the genius of the system was the money, or rather, the lack of it. The Buddha forbade monks from handling gold or silver, and he forbade them from growing their own food. This sounds like a restriction, but it was a survival strategy. It forced symbiosis. If a monk wants to eat, he has to pick up his bowl and walk into the village. He has to make eye contact with the lay people. He can't hide in a cave. This created a loop. The lay people provide food, physical sustenance. The monks provide Dhamma, spiritual sustenance. They called the monks a field of merit. By giving food, the layperson wasn't just being nice. They were generating good karma. It turned dependency into a virtue. It kept the monks humble because they had to beg, and it kept the laity educated because they got a daily lecture with their donation. It glued the Sangha to society. And finally, the weather played a part. The monsoons in India are brutal. You can't travel. So for 3 months, the wandering stopped. The Vasa, the rain retreat. This forced them to settle down in one spot. Lay people built shelters for them. These shelters became viharas, monasteries. This is how Buddhism transitioned from a group of wandering homeless guys into a stable institution with universities and temples. It was an accident of weather that solidified the foundation of the faith. The rain forced them to stop walking and start building, and that structure is why 2,500 years later, the wheel is still turning. Picture the scene. It's early morning in Rajagaha, at the bamboo grove. The Buddha is walking for alms, and he sees something strange. There's a young man named Sigala, soaking wet, hair dripping, clothes drenched. He's standing in the middle of the road, bowing. He bows east, then south, west, north. He bows down to the earth and up to the sky. He looks frantic. He looks lost.
When the Buddha asks him what on earth he's doing, Sigala says, "My father died. On his deathbed, he told me to worship the 6 directions. I promised, so here I am."
It's a heavy moment. We've all been Sigala. We cling to rituals, habits, or advice from the past because we're scared to let go, even if we don't understand why we're doing it. We perform the motions. We check the boxes. But the Buddha doesn't mock him. He doesn't say, "That's stupid, stop it." He says, "In my discipline, Sigala, that is not how we worship the 6 directions. This is the pivot." The Buddha takes an empty, superstitious ritual and recodes it. He turns a worship of geography into a blueprint for human connection. This isn't just a sermon. It's the Vinaya of the householder. It is the code of discipline for the layperson. But before you can build a network of healthy relationships, you have to clean up your own house. You have to stop leaking energy. The Buddha starts with moral purity, but let's call it what it is: damage control. He identifies 4 ways you destroy yourself: killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and lying. Standard, right? But look deeper. These are the things that create enemies. These are the things that make you sleep with one eye open. If you are doing these, you are already anxious. You are already looking over your shoulder. You cannot build a good life on a foundation of paranoia.
Then he moves to the psychology of it. Why do we do these bad things? It's not just because we are evil. It's because we lose our balance. The Buddha calls these the 4 agati, the 4 biases. We act out of desire, favoring the people we want something from.
We act out of hatred, punishing those we dislike. We act out of delusion, doing stupid things because we don't know better. And the big one? Fear. We compromise our integrity because we are scared. If you are driven by fear or greed, you aren't free. You're just reacting. You're a puppet to your impulses. Now, let's talk about money. This is where the Buddha gets incredibly practical.
He warns Sigala about the 6 ways to blow a fortune. And this sounds like it was written yesterday. Indulging in intoxicants, it drains your wallet and sparks fights. Roaming the streets at ungodly hours, you're asking for trouble.
Obsessively chasing entertainment. Gambling, where winning breeds hate in the loser, and losing breeds sorrow in you. Hanging out with bad crowds. And my favorite, habitual idleness. The excuse maker. It's too cold to work. It's too hot. It's too late. Sound familiar? These aren't sins. They are leaks. They are holes in your pocket. You also need to audit your circle. The Buddha gives Sigala a crash course in social intelligence. He says there are foes who look like friends. The grasper who only calls when they need something. The smooth talker who promises the world but disappears when it's time to move a sofa. The flatterer who nods at your bad ideas just to keep you happy. The reckless companion who drags you into trouble. Cut them loose. Instead, find the true-hearted. The helper, the one who stays when you're broke. The mentor who tells you the hard truth to keep you safe. Real friendship isn't about fun. It's about refuge. Finally, the Buddha circles back to those 6 directions. He tells Sigala, you want to worship the East? Look at your parents. They gave you life. You support them in their old age. That is the East. The South is your teachers. You stand up for them. They train you. The West is your partner. This was radical for its time. He tells husbands to respect their wives, to be faithful, to hand over authority in the home, and the wife protects the wealth and manages the household. It's a partnership, not a dictatorship. The North represents your friends. You treat them with generosity, they protect you when you're vulnerable. The nadir, the direction below, is your employees. This is arguably the earliest labor law in history. the Buddha tells employers, assign work according to strength, pay them well, give them leave, and care for them when they are sick. You don't exploit those below you, you lift them up. And the zenith, the direction above, that's your spiritual guides. You keep an open door. They show you the path to peace. Do you see the genius here? The Buddha replaced a superstitious shield with a social one. If you cover these 6 bases, parents, teachers, partner, friends, workers, and mentors, you are safe. No harm can come to you because you are protected by a web of mutual respect. You aren't bowing to empty air anymore. You are bowing to the divinity in the people around you. Sigala got it. He saw the structure. He realized that the magic wasn't in the ritual, it was in the relationships. And that is the only lecture on how to live a life that you will ever need. So the Buddha dies. He passes into parinirvana, and he leaves behind a void, a massive, silent void. And almost immediately, you have this question rippling through the community of followers. What now? What exactly did he mean? How strictly should we follow the rules? And just like any great movement, as it spreads, it cracks. It doesn't break, but it diverges. It splits into 3 distinct vehicles, 3 massive rafts designed to carry humanity across the river of suffering. First, you have the Theravada, the school of the elders. Think of this as the orthodox foundation, the purists. These are the people who looked at the texts, specifically the Pali Canon, and said, we are not changing a single syllable. To them, the Buddha wasn't a god. He wasn't some cosmic entity floating in the ether. He was a man. A supreme teacher, yes, but a man who walked in the dust of India, sweated, aged, and died. And if he could do it, you can do it, but you have to do it alone. This is where we get the ideal of the Arhat, the worthy one. In the Theravada tradition, this is the pinnacle of human existence. The Arhat is someone who has extinguished the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion. They've done the work. They've reached the finish line. But it's a solitary path. The Buddha's last words were, work out your own salvation with diligence. And the elders took that literally. It's on you. No one can save you but yourself. So the vibe here is intense personal responsibility. It's monastic, it's disciplined. You see this heavily in places like Sri Lanka, Thailand, Myanmar. The distinction between the monk and the layperson is huge. If you're a layperson, your job is basically to support the monks, accumulate some good karma, and hope for a better rebirth where you can actually become a monk. Because in this view, you really need to leave society to find the truth. You need to silence, you need the strict code of the Vinaya. But then, time passes, centuries roll by, and a new feeling starts to bubble up in the community. Some people started looking at the Arhat ideal, this solitary figure walking into the sunset of nirvana alone, and they felt something was missing. It felt cold. It felt too narrow. They called it the small vehicle. And in response, they launched the Mahayana, the great vehicle, the big raft. Mahayana blows the doors off the monastery. It says no, enlightenment isn't just for the guys in the robes. It's for everyone. It democratizes the sacred. But the biggest shift here isn't just about who can get enlightened, it's about why you get enlightened. The goal shifts. It stops being about the Arhat who saves himself and starts being about the Bodhisattva. This is a beautiful, almost heartbreaking concept. The Bodhisattva is a being who stands on the very edge of nirvana. They see the peace, the escape, the end of suffering right there in front of them, and they refuse to take the step. They turn back. They take a vow to remain in the cycle of birth and death, to stay in the mud with the rest of us. until every single blade of grass is enlightened. You have figures like Avalokiteshvara, the embodiment of compassion, who hears the cries of the world. It's a shift from wisdom to compassion, from self-liberation to universal salvation. And along with this, the philosophy gets trippy. You get the Prajna Paramita Sutras, you get the Heart Sutra, you get the concept of sunyata, emptiness.
Now, don't get this wrong. Emptiness doesn't mean nothing exists. It means nothing exists independently. Everything is connected. I am you, you are me. And the Buddha isn't just a man who died 500 years ago. The Buddha is the fundamental nature of reality itself. We all have Buddha nature. It's like a seed buried in your chest. You don't have to become something new. You just have to wake up to what you already are.
This idea spread like wildfire along the Silk Road. It hit China, morphed into Chan Buddhism, then hit Japan and became Zen. It created Pure Land Buddhism, where you rely on the grace of Amitabha Buddha because you're too weak to do it alone. It's expansive, it's huge, it's the Buddhism of the masses.
But human beings are impatient. The Mahayana path is noble, sure, but it takes eons, literally eons of lifetimes to become a perfectly enlightened Buddha. And some people said, I don't have eons, I want it now. Enter Vajrayana, the diamond vehicle, the thunderbolt.
Vajrayana is the third turning of the wheel. It emerged mostly in Tibet and the Himalayas, and it is radical. If Theravada is walking up the mountain and Mahayana is taking a bus with everyone else, Vajrayana is strapping a rocket to your back. It's dangerous, it's volatile, but it claims it can get you to enlightenment in a single lifetime.
How? By not rejecting anything. The other schools tell you to suppress desire, to run away from the poisons of the world. Vajrayana says, no, use them. It's Tantra, it's alchemy. You take the energy of desire, the energy of anger, the raw heat of being human, and you transmute it. You don't kill the poison, you turn it into medicine.
This is why you see all that intense imagery in Tibetan art. Skulls, fire, wrathful deities. It looks scary, but it's symbolic. It's about psychological transformation. They use the 3 M's: mantras, sound, mudras, movement, and mandalas, visualization. You visualize yourself as the deity until you become the deity. You fake it till you make it on a cosmic scale.
But because this path is so fast and powerful, it's risky. You can crash and burn. That's why the guru is non-negotiable here. In Theravada, the teacher is a guide. In Vajrayana, the guru is the path itself. You need that transmission. You need the specific authorization, the empowerment. Without a guide, you're just playing with fire. So you have these 3 vehicles, the elder, the great, and the diamond. Sri Lanka, Japan, Tibet. Discipline, compassion, power. And the beauty of it is they aren't fighting each other. They're just different medicines for different sicknesses. The Buddha was a pragmatic doctor. He knew that what cures one person might kill another. So he left behind a pharmacy, a vehicle for every kind of traveler.
People get confused about Buddhism. You walk into a temple, smell the incense, see the golden statues, and you think, okay, this is a religion. But then you read the texts, and there's no God, no creator, no guy in the sky judging your debit card transactions. So is it a philosophy? A psychology? It's actually more like a hospital for the human condition. See, most religions try to get you into heaven. Buddhism tries to get heaven out of you. It's not about worshiping a deity, it's about waking up. That's what the word Buddha actually means, the awakened one. He wasn't a god. He was a guy who figured out the code to the matrix,
and then came back to show us how to hack it too. He called it the middle way. Not starving yourself in a cave, but not drowning in luxury either. It's the balance that keeps you sane.
So if there's no God, what do you hold on to? You have three things: the Tree Ratna, or the three jewels. Think of them like a survival kit. First, you have the Buddha. That's your guide, the doctor who knows the cure. Second, you have the Dharma. This isn't a holy book you blindly obey. It's the medicine. It's the cosmic law, the truth of how things actually work. And third, you have the Sangha, the community. Because let's be honest, trying to be spiritual alone is impossible. You need people. You need the monks, the lay people, the fellow travelers who pick you up when you stumble. These three things are the only safety net you get. But why do we need a safety net? Because life hurts. This is the core diagnosis, the Four Noble Truths. The first truth is dukkha. We usually translate this as suffering, but that's too dramatic. It really means unsatisfactoriness. It's that subtle feeling that something is just off. You get the car, but you worry about the scratch. You get the girl, but you worry about the breakup. It's the wheel that squeaks. That's dukkha. And the second truth is knowing why it happens. It's not bad luck. It's samudaya, craving. It's this thirst we have for things to be different than they are. We want the moment to last forever, or we want it to end right now. That friction, that's what kills us. The good news comes in the third truth, nirodha. It means cessation. It means you can actually stop this. You can blow out the candle of suffering. It's not a fairy tale. It's a mechanical possibility. And the fourth truth is simply the how-to guide, the magga, the path. We call it the Noble Eightfold Path. And don't view this as a list of commandments like thou shalt not. View it as a training regimen. It's divided into three pillars: wisdom, ethics, and focus. You start with wisdom, right view, and right intention. You have to see the world clearly, not through your own neurotic projection. You have to want to get better. Then you move to the physical stuff. Ethics. Right speech, right action, right livelihood. This isn't about being a good boy. It's practical. If you lie, steal, or abuse people, your mind becomes agitated. You can't meditate if you're worried about the police or a vengeful ex. You clean up your act so you can chill out. That leads to the final pillar, mental discipline. Right effort, mindfulness, and concentration. This is the gym work. You're training your brain to stay, to sit, to observe. You're sharpening the knife so you can cut through the illusions. And this is where it gets trippy, the metaphysics, the mechanics of the machine. The biggest illusion you have to cut through? You, the concept of anatta, or non-self. This is the hardest pill to swallow. We all feel like there is a me inside our head, a pilot driving the body. Buddhism says, look closer. There is no pilot. There are just thoughts, feelings, and sensations passing through. It's a process, not a person. It's like a river. You call it the Mississippi, but the water is different every second. You are that river. You don't have a soul. You are the flow. Because there's no permanent you, everything is governed by karma, cause and effect. Again, this isn't a cosmic judge keeping score. It's physics. If you plant a mango seed, you don't get a cactus. If you plant anger, you get a chaotic life. If you plant generosity, you get a peaceful life. This cycle keeps spinning, samsara, birth, death, rebirth. Not because a god sends you back, but because your energy, your cravings, and your unfinished business have to go somewhere. You're trapped in this loop because you cling to things that are anicca, impermanent. Everything changes. Everything breaks. The moment you accept that, you're free.
Now, over thousands of years, people figured out different ways to walk this path. These are the branches. The old school crew is Theravada, the way of the elders. They hang out in places like Thailand and Sri Lanka. Their goal is simple: get me out of here. Become an arhat. Reach nirvana. Save yourself from the burning building. They stick to the Pali Canon, the original lecture notes. It's strict, it's disciplined, and it works. But then some people said, wait, isn't it selfish to save only yourself? That's where Mahayana comes in, the great vehicle. This is the Buddhism of China, Japan, and the Zen masters. Their ideal isn't the arhat, it's the bodhisattva, the hero who gets to the door of nirvana, puts their hand on the knob, and stops. They turn around and say, I'm not leaving until everyone else comes with me. It's about universal compassion. Then you have the Vajrayana, the diamond vehicle in Tibet. They're like the special forces. They use intense rituals, visualizations, and energy work, tantra, to try and get enlightened in a single lifetime. It's high risk, high reward.
But whether you're reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead or sitting in silent zazen meditation, the practice is the same. It comes down to bhavana, cultivation. You take the 5 precepts not to please a god, but to stop hurting yourself. You sit on the cushion not to escape life, but to see it for what it really is. You strip away the titles, the money, the anxiety, and the story of me. And what's left? That's what the Buddha was pointing at. That's the only lecture you need.
For the first 400 years, he wasn't there. You could walk into any holy site, look at the stupa, look at the carvings, and you would see everything but him. You'd see a riderless horse, an empty throne, a wheel turning on its own, or just footprints stamped into the stone. It's almost haunting when you think about it. The aniconic phase. It wasn't that they couldn't carve him, they chose not to. Because how do you carve a man who has gone beyond form? How do you trap the infinite in a block of stone? He had reached nirvana. He was gone like a flame blown out. To give him a body was to drag him back into the world of suffering he had just escaped. But humans are human. We struggle with abstractions. We can't pray to a concept. We need a face. And this is where the theology started to crack. The old school, the Theravada, said, do the work, follow the rules. But the new wave, the Mahayana, they said, no, we need help. We need a savior. This is the rise of bhakti, devotion.
The people didn't just want a teacher anymore. They wanted a god. They wanted someone to look at, someone to love. And right at this moment of desperate need, history provided the perfect storm, the Kushan Empire. Think of the Kushans not just as rulers, but as the ultimate middlemen. They controlled the crossroads of the world. They had gold, they had stability, and they had a wildly diverse population. And under Emperor Kanishka, they opened the floodgates. Suddenly, there wasn't just permission to make an image, there was funding. And because the empire was so vast, the image of the Buddha didn't appear in one way. It exploded in 2 completely different places at roughly the same time, looking like 2 completely different people. First, let's go northwest to Gandhara. This is modern-day Pakistan and Afghanistan, the ancient crossroads. But look closely at the art coming out of here, and you'll swear you're in Rome or Athens. Why? Because Alexander the Great had been here centuries before, and he left his ghosts behind. The artists here grew up surrounded by Greek statues, Greek coins, Greek gods. So when they were told, carve the Buddha, they used the visual language they knew. They carved a Greek god. The Gandhara Buddha is startlingly realistic. It's made of this cold, dark gray schist. And he looks like Apollo. He has that sharp, aquiline nose, the perfectly defined lips, the wavy, romantic hair piled up in a topknot, which they called the kropolos. And look at the clothes. He isn't wearing Indian cotton. He's wearing a heavy, thick toga-like robe that falls in deep, realistic folds. You can feel the weight of that cloth. It covers both shoulders. He looks serene, yes, but he also looks detached. A beautiful, stoic philosopher. A man of the world, rendered with a realism that makes you feel like you could shake his hand.
But travel southeast, down to the banks of the Yamuna River, to Mathura. Totally different world. No Greek ghosts here. This is the heartland of India. The artists here didn't care about realism. They cared about vitality. They didn't look at Greek gods for inspiration. They looked at the ancient yakshas, those massive, powerful nature spirits guarding the trees and the earth. So when Mathura carved the Buddha, they didn't make a philosopher, they made a powerhouse.
The Mathura Buddha hits you differently. He's carved from this striking, spotted red sandstone. He isn't slender or detached. He's broad-shouldered, chest expanded, filled with breath, what the Indians called prana. He looks powerful, a yogi king. And he's not hiding under heavy robes. He's wearing thin, transparent muslin that clings to the body, revealing every curve, leaving the right shoulder bare. It's bold. His face isn't the cool, detached face of Gandhara. It's round, with wide open eyes, and a smile that feels warm, almost fleshy.
So you have these two contenders. Gandhara is the beautiful man, representing the intellect, the calm, the naturalistic realism. Mathura is the divine spirit, representing power, energy, the idealized abstraction. Scholars love to argue about who is first. Did the Greeks teach the Indians how to make statues, or did the Indians evolve it from their own spirit worship? The truth is, it doesn't matter. They likely happened at the same time, feeding the same hunger. But they didn't stay in their lanes. They started talking to each other.
Slowly, the styles began to cross-pollinate. Mathura saw those beautiful drapery folds from Gandhara and thought, we can use that. Gandhara saw the spiritual intensity of Mathura and thought, we need more of that. And they both had to solve the same problem, the scripture. The text said a great man has 32 distinct physical marks, the lakshanas. So they both had to figure out how to carve them without making him look like a monster. Take the Ushnisha. The text said he had a protuberance of wisdom on his head. Gandhara hid it by making it look like a hair bun. Mathura eventually just carved a snail shell curl on top. Or the Orna, that tuft of hair between the eyebrows, the third eye. Or those long earlobes. Why the long ears? It's a subtle nod to his past. He was a prince. He wore heavy gold earrings that stretched his lobes. When he left the palace, he took the jewelry off, but the holes remained. A permanent reminder that he heard the suffering of the world, but no longer carried its weight. Eventually, the dust settled. The raw power of Mathura and the refined elegance of Gandhara merged. They blended into what we call the Gupta style, the Golden Age. This is the Buddha you know today, the perfect balance of flesh and spirit, realism and idealism. But it started here, with two different cultures, trying to carve the same ineffable truth and changing the face of religion forever. You might think Buddhism is just for people who want to retreat from the world, people who want to sit in a cave, close their eyes, and let life pass them by. But that is a lie. If you look at the people who actually shaped the 20th and 21st centuries, the people who broke chains and built empires, you find the Buddha's fingerprints everywhere. Take Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. He wasn't looking for a god to save him. He was looking for a weapon. He needed something to dismantle the most oppressive social structure in human history, the caste system. He realized that political freedom without spiritual equality was a joke. So he didn't just adopt Buddhism, he revolutionized it. Ambedkar called it Navayana, the new vehicle. He stripped away the metaphysics, the karma of past lives, the rituals. He focused entirely on the class struggle. He saw the Buddha not as a mystic, but as the first true revolutionary who said no. No to caste, no to inequality. And in 1956, he didn't just convert alone. He led 500,000 people in a single day to walk away from a system that deemed them untouchable and embrace a path that called them human. That isn't religion. That is a social declaration of war against oppression. It proved that the Dhamma isn't passive. It's a force for justice that can rewrite the destiny of millions. Then you have Gandhi. Now, Gandhi was a devout Hindu, yes, but you cannot look at his strategy and miss the Buddhist DNA. He took the concept of ahimsa, nonviolence, and turned it into a political sledgehammer. Before this, nonviolence was a personal vow. Something you did for your own soul. Gandhi made it a way to bring an empire to its knees. He looked at the renunciation of Prince Siddhartha, walking away from the palace, and mirrored it. He knew that to lead the masses, he had to live like the masses. He couldn't fight greed with greed. He had to fight it with a radical simplicity that terrified the British because they couldn't buy him. He showed us that the softest power is often the hardest to break. But what happens when the violence isn't just local? What happens when the whole world is on fire? Enter Thich Nhat Hanh. During the Vietnam War, while bombs were dropping, he refused to choose sides. He chose the people. He coined the term engaged Buddhism. The idea is simple. If you are meditating while your village is burning and you do nothing, you aren't a Buddhist. You're just ignoring reality. You have to get off the cushion. You have to take that peace and carry it into the line of fire. His influence was so magnetic that he reached across the ocean and touched the heart of Martin Luther King Jr. It was Thich Nhat Hanh who convinced MLK to come out publicly against the Vietnam War. Think about that link. A monk from Vietnam influencing the leader of the American Civil Rights Movement. King nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize, calling him an apostle of peace and nonviolence. Han taught us interbeing, the idea that we aren't separate. You cannot bomb an enemy without bombing yourself, because humanity is a single organism. And today we see the 14th Dalai Lama carrying this torch, but he's doing something different. He knows that in a secular world, religion turns people off, so he talks about secular ethics. The Dalai Lama is obsessed with science. He sits down with neuroscientists, psychologists, and quantum physicists. He says, if science proves some belief of Buddhism wrong, then Buddhism will have to change. That is unheard of in religious leadership. He established the Mind and Life Institute to bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and modern data. He isn't asking you to believe in reincarnation. He's asking you to look at the MRI scans of a brain on compassion. He's showing us that kindness isn't just a moral duty, it's a biological imperative for survival. He took the mysticism out of the equation and replaced it with hard evidence. Now, let's pivot. Let's look at the device in your pocket, the iPhone. You think that's just technology? That is Zen philosophy made into glass and metal. Steve Jobs was a seeker long before he was a CEO. He spent time in India. He had a Zen teacher, Kobun Chino Otagawa, who presided over his wedding. At one point, Jobs actually thought about quitting Apple to become a monk. Otagawa told him that his work was his temple. And you can see it. The way Jobs designed wasn't about adding features. It was about stripping them away.
It was the Zen concept of ma, negative space, the power of what isn't there.
Jobs didn't rely on focus groups. He didn't care what the data said people wanted. He relied on prajna, intuitive wisdom. He trusted that deep gut feeling that comes from clarity. He wanted a device that felt inevitable, clean, simple. When you scroll on a screen, that fluidity, that's the result of a mind obsessed with removing the clutter. It triggered a wave in Silicon Valley.
Now you have Mark Benioff at Salesforce building meditation rooms on every floor. It's not just a perk, it's a business strategy. These leaders realize that in an economy of distraction, focus is the new currency, and nothing trains focus like the techniques developed 2,500 years ago.
Finally, we have to look at the thinkers, the ones who saw the cracks in Western materialism. In the 1950s, the Beat Generation, Kerouac, Ginsberg, they looked at the American dream and saw a nightmare of consumerism. They wanted out. They found the Dharma bums. They popularized Zen, taking it out of dusty academic books and throwing it into pop culture. They made it cool to be detached. They made it rebellious to sit still. They paved the way for the counterculture that eventually gave us the yoga studios and mindfulness apps we see on every corner today. And the heavyweights of science agreed. Bertrand Russell, a man of pure logic, admired the Buddha because he wasn't a god, he was a teacher. He didn't demand faith, he demanded analysis. And Albert Einstein, the man who rewrote the laws of physics, saw Buddhism as the only partner for the future. He famously said that if there is any religion that would cope with modern scientific needs, it would be Buddhism. Why? Because it doesn't require a personal god. It doesn't rely on dogmas that fight with gravity or evolution. It is built on causality, cause and effect. That is the language of physics. Einstein saw that the Buddha had cracked the code of the universe internally, just as he was trying to crack it externally.